Studio 401, it's the Stranger Than Fiction News right here on The Fringe FM. I'm Vance Nesbitt, and here's our headlines. Scientists revive brain cells from dead pigs. In a study that raises profound questions about the line between life and death, researchers have restored some cellular activity to brains removed from slaughtered pigs. The brains did not regain anything resembling consciousness. There were no signs indicating coordinated electrical signaling necessary for higher functions like awareness and intelligence. But in an experimental treatment, blood vessels in the pig's brain began functioning, flowing with a blood substitute, and certain brain cells regained metabolic activity, even responding to drugs. When the researchers tested slices of treated brain tissue, they discovered electrical activity in some neurons. Source, New York Times. And a study of DNA reveals the origin of the Stonehenge builders. Ancestors from the people who built Stonehenge traveled west across the Mediterranean before reaching Britain, as a study has shown. Researchers compared DNA extracted from Neolithic human remains found across Britain with people alive at the same time period in Europe. The Neolithic inhabitants were descended from populations originating in Anatolia, which is now modern Turkey, that moved to Liberia before heading north. They finally reached Britain at about 4000 BC. Source, BBC News. And a man in Logan County, Oklahoma, claims he saw an unidentified bipedal creature. The anonymous man told the BFRO that he was sitting on his front porch with his dog when the sighting took place at dusk in October of last year. The man said he saw two deer running south, and then seconds later a biped running in the same direction. He was 2 steps from the fence around the front pasture when I saw him, he explains. He pushed down the top wire, stepped over, crossed the front pasture, pushed down the top wire, stepped over into the center pasture, and then went into a slight ditch and crossed a road and disappeared. His dog, he adds, didn't even bark until the creature was all the way across the pasture. He describes it as being large, tall, dark, and wide. The eyewitness says the biped was probably about 7 feet tall and weighed around 500 pounds. Source, cryptozoologynews.com. And now moving right into our fringe fun fact. A 10-year-old mattress weighs double what it did when it was new due to debris that absorbs over time. That debris includes dust mites, their droppings, decaying bodies, mold, millions of dead skin cells, dandruff, animal and human hair secretions, excretions, lint, pollen, dust, soil, sand, and a lot of perspiration, which the average person loses at a rate of a quart a day. So have a good night. Thanks for listening to the Stranger Than Fiction News right here on the Fringe FM. Again, I'm Vance Nesbitt, news anchor and sorcerer.
Message is being broadcast by the Department of Defense of the Republic. At 2 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, multiple unidentified objects were confirmed to have entered Earth's atmosphere.
Discovery Houston, 20 seconds to LOS Idris.
Roger, nice to be in orbit. The first message that comes to you is you are a divine being. You matter. You count. You come from realms of unimaginable power and light, and you will return to those realms.
The vast stretches of the unknown and the unanswered and the unfinished still far outstrip our collective comprehension.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Broadcasting from Forest Tower Studios, all the way from the Deep South. Now, here is your host, Joe Root.
Broadcasting from atop a hill in the mossy creek bottoms of Cane Creek, Arkansas. I'm Joe Roop, and this is Lighting the Void. Thank you so much for joining us tonight on the broadcast. On this edition, it is Monday, April the 22nd on into the 23rd. We are ready to kickstart our week again tonight. So thank you so much for joining us wherever you're listening from across the World Wide Web, or if you're using the call to listen line. Tonight we'll be speaking with host Miguel Connor from Aeon Byte Gnostic Radio and author. And if you need a website reference for the show tonight, the website is going to be thegodabovegod.com. Now, this was supposed to happen last Thursday, but it didn't get to happen because those nasty archons knocked my power out again. And so we made it happen. The will pervades all. And so we just kept going at it, and now we're going to make it happen. So this is going to be an interesting conversation. It's going to kind of cap off last week before we start on a new subject. It's rare that we do a whole week about one subject, but Gnosticism and the ancient mysteries is something that you really want to keep going at. It's not something that you can just take for granted, I guess, and just do like one little show on it and hope that that was good enough, because it doesn't really work that way. Not in my opinion, it don't. But thank you guys so much for joining us. Our website is lightingthevoid.com. We are live on The Fringe FM. That's thefringe.fm. You can download the network app on your Google phone, your Android phone, your iPhone. You can also download the Alexa skill and use it for that nasty Amazon machine. I guess if you want to use Amazon. And we also have the call to listen line. Other places that I want to give a shout out to that we're on is also TalkStream Live and the Paranormal Radio app. Give us a follow on social media. It took a long time, but we are 4 people away from having 1,000 follows on Fedbook. So once we get to 1,000 follows on Fedbook, then I think we actually become somebody of importance. But I will say that if you get trapped in the dark like me, and the only thing that you got is your music, please go get the Surfer Music app. You are not going to regret it. Surfer, SURFR.FM. Go get that app and download it. You can get it on both devices. Doesn't matter. Same thing. And sign up for our webinar. April the 29th, we're going to be doing a new Get the Tea webinar with Ronnie. We're going to be giving away something. You're going to get an exclusive code. Go to getthetea.com and sign up. And also take all of your stuff, man. I feel like a doctor every night. Take all your stuff because I am. Do what I do, and you'll feel better. I do feel better. I got to say, because I've been taking this stuff for a while now. I'm taking like a concoction of stuff now. This Allison Advanced, the 8th Element, Get the Tea, and Ancient Life Oil. Yeah, there's some noticeable differences, that's for sure. And the numbers have changed too. Unfortunately, I can't help it, but that phone system that we had that we were paying decent money for was only letting certain people get through, and then certain numbers it would just push to voicemail. So the queue system isn't working right, and they said once they figure out what's going on, they'll let me know, etc. So we're going to keep that 501-777-5631 number, which should be easy to remember. You can call that number. You can text into that number as well. Also, after the show tonight, I will be on The Secret Teachings again with Ryan Gable. We're going to go over the pink moon. We're going to be talking about Easter, so I look forward to that. Look forward to hearing that, and you guys are going to enjoy that as well. The Fringe FM has this for you all freaking night, every night of the week, and it's awesome. We got new shows coming. I want to welcome the Cosmic Keys podcast to the network. Dan and Scarlett are now on Monday nights at 5 p.m. Pacific. We also have other shows coming. Until they're official, I won't announce them, but yeah, you're going to recognize some of them. We're growing. That's all I got to say. The live listenership has grown. We've reached a pretty big threshold, and we're right on the edge of another threshold. I don't know, man. It's like, I'm kind of jealous of you guys. Right now, I don't know how long this is going to last. The world of podcast and live internet radio and all the stuff we do, It almost seems, in a way, too good to be true, doesn't it? Like it seems, and I don't want to jinx it, but with all the stuff going on, I kind of want to cherish this while we have it. Like, I'm jealous of you as a listener. And I used to have business partners back in the day that would say, what are you doing, Joe? You're promoting other radio hosts and other radio networks. What's the matter with you? And I would tell them to shove off, because the cream rises to the top, man. If something's good, it's good. And you got choices, man. You got some good choices. I know Art Bell isn't with us anymore, but I think with all the radio shows that we have out now, all of the networks that are out now, you've got a lot of good stuff to choose from. You got right here, the Fringe FM. You still got Nori doing his thing. You got Clyde Lewis doing his thing. The Dark Matter Digital Network, KGRA, Truth Frequency Radio. You guys got it made, man. You got all this stuff at your fingertips. And we need to really, when I say go get a shortwave radio, I mean it, because I don't know how much longer this is going to last. People that seek the truth, we always have our spells, we always have our really big pushes, and then something happens. And I'll get into that in a minute before we get into this interview. Also, speaking of which, really big truth seekers, go to ufoseekers.com, backed and supported by the Fringe FM and Lighting the Void. Go check out their latest videos at youtube.com/UFO Seekers. Go check out the website at ufoseekers.com. I think Tim's going to be back on the show to discuss his event that happened at Area 51 here soon once he gets time. I hope I can get him to call in from the desert. That would be cool. But if you have a sighting or you know of an active area, give him a call at 661-UFO-7889. Also, go get the Shoot the Moon video. Go see that. Go check it out. All of this stuff. Yeah. And when I say I'm jealous of you, it's not like I don't have access to what you have access to, but I get to do all this stuff after the fact. Before I did this radio show, I was into books and into every radio show out there. And it was fun. And I'm not saying doing this show isn't fun. It's just now I really have to focus on what I'm going to spend my time on. And so we've been discussing Gnosticism all week and last week, the mystery schools, its implications to the outer-body experience and to astral travel. We also discussed the implications possibly to UFOs, interdimensional travelers, and the abduction experience. And as I said, this interview tonight was supposed to happen last Thursday, but the power went out. And we're back. We're going to do it. We're going to get it done. And if you haven't heard of Miguel Connor, you got to go check out. My favorite thing that he does are his monologues, the intros that he does right before he does his interviews. And we'll give you a sample of that before we get this interview, going. I have his explicit permission. One of I don't do big birthday celebrity shout outs unless it's super important. Jack Nicholson, here's Johnny, is 82. That guy's my hero, but I think he's starting to lose it a little bit. He's 82 years old. Damn. Also, a Wisconsin man has seen Captain Marvel, admittedly, 116 times. And yes, ladies, he's single. The Avengers Endgame is coming out. I hope you guys didn't actually get that spoiled for you. There was rumors of stuff coming out on the internet. I didn't even look at it. I spend my time with this, and the only fun I get is either playing nerdy Dungeons and Dragons with my friends on the weekends, but now every Sunday night, instead of doing that, at least for the next few weeks, we have our own little Game of Thrones chat room that we go in there and we kind of hang out. And some of you guys, in the chat room are hilarious. Yeah, speaking of which, we have two chat rooms, one over at Spreaker and one at thefringe.fm. And that chat room at thefringe.fm is a Discord chat room. It's really fun. Like, I've got my group of people over there. We got a few cool cats over there. Ja and Razor Wolf, Angel and Laura. And then we've got the Spreaker people. The reason why I'm a little bit more partial to the Fringe FM chat is because all of the fun stuff you can do in it. So yeah, it's a permanent invite. Just go to thefringe.fm/chat. But I'm excited about the new Avengers Endgame. I'm excited about Game of Thrones. I'm amped up on all this supplements, man. I don't think I've ever had this much energy in my life. And it feels great. I'm not complaining. But the reason why I say, before we kick this off, about how we got it good and how we should cherish this stuff, and I mean really cherish it, the podcast, the radio shows, because the more I look into what's going on with social media and YouTube and the internet, they are cracking down. And sooner or later, and I hate to say this because I know some of you guys make your living on YouTube, but they keep making new rules and they keep cracking down on things. And even Facebook, their new chief lawyer, Jennifer Newstead, is Facebook's new chief lawyer. Does anybody know who this woman is? You know, she pretty much helped write the Patriot Act. She was a Trump appointee who served in the Justice Department under President Bush, and she's about to take over the council of Facebook. Now, this was announced today in a press release, and she is going to take over from Colin Stretch because he announced his plans to retire. But she's pretty much well known for the day-to-day management of the Patriot Act. So when some of you guys say, man, Facebook is infiltrated, yeah, it's infiltrated, all right. So get ready for that. And it's the same thing, Google and YouTube. It's going to happen. What they haven't really dug their claws into yet is the radio and podcast networks. And that's kind of why we built our own radio network. We have everything on our website. So no matter what, as long as we got the internet and we got encoders, and sooner than later, hopefully we're going to have our shortwave broadcast up, we'll be able to broadcast to you. So unless somebody just hits us with an EMP, I want this radio station to always be able to broadcast, because I don't think we can depend on social media anymore. It's coming, right? No doubt about it. And other things that could happen too, just other things that could wreak havoc. I mean, that beautiful aurora borealis that happened, NASA's saying, well, it's beautiful, but it's kind of scary. They call it the Beauty and the Beast aurora borealis. But it's taken the form of a great green spiral, and it looks beautiful with the stars in the back. It's probably one of the coolest things I've ever seen. But the Beauty and the Beast part is that the beast is a wave of charged particles that creates the aurora, but might one day impair an entire civilization. Now, why do I say that? I'm not trying to create mass hysteria here. I'm just telling you cause and effect is real. But aurora is the result of collisions between electronically charged particles. If you know anything about that, from the sun and the particles in the Earth's atmosphere, that's what causes that. And most of the time, they're harmless. There's nothing to worry about. But now the scientists are warning that a particularly strong solar flare could one day release a pulse of charged particles capable of bringing down the Earth's communication networks. Now, what does that mean for us? Well, the last time this happened, it was called the Carrington event. And this happened once before in 1859. Now, in 1859, what did it do? Really, it did not much of anything. Doesn't really matter. But they call this a Carrington event. And it's when a pulse of charged particles associated with a solar flare bomb Earth's magnetosphere. I heard DeGrasse Tyson talking about this not too long ago. And that's what they call it, a Carrington event. But we're a Carrington event, class event to impact the Earth today. If it happened today, that kind of damage might have actually caused, and think about it, if it caused the global power grids, and I'm stumbling on my words because I don't want to push fear, but if that happens, we are so dependent on electronics and the internet and everything now, it would be pretty big. It would be at a scale that we've never experienced before, because we are so dependent on all this stuff. How do I know this? It's not just a theory. I experienced it. 2 weeks in a row, 24 hours with no electricity, no power, no nothing. Unless you got a generator, which we got a generator, but I never pull that thing out because it's buried deep inside the shop, unless it's like an ice storm or something. But yeah, it would be pretty catastrophic, actually. And just in a 24-hour period, the stores around here shut down. They shut down, and then when they opened back up and we went to get stuff out of the freezer, they wouldn't let us because they can't. They're afraid if you get sick, you're going to sue them. Now, Elon Musk also warned about these types of things, but he warned about artificial intelligence, and look what happened. Now, Elon Musk, and I'm considering this guy, it's not that I like him or dislike him or anything, but usually when he comes out and says something's going to happen, then it happens. And now he's saying, I remember our shows last week, the broadcast we did last week. Now he's saying that the human brain is going to connect to the cloud AI and computers coming much, much sooner than we think, and there really is no stopping it. Yeah. So all of that stuff, even we were doing the replay, that got interrupted when we did the live broadcast. I got to fix that so it doesn't just interrupt a broadcast somehow. But either way, that's coming. And so when I talk about these things, it isn't because I know that in the conspiracy world that you guys love mass hysteria, you love your own fear, so I'm just going to try to scare you. That's not why I do it. It's because I think that it's really going to happen. All right, let's look for something positive today, something immaculate. Let's find something. In other news, an Emirati woman woke up from a coma after 30 years of being asleep. 30 years. This lady, when she picked up her 4-year-old son 30 years ago from school, and this was in Al Ain, she could not have known what she was going to see. Like, she never knew she was going to see this again she wasn't going to see her boy again for 27 years. Her vehicle collided with a school bus. She was 32 years old when it happened. It gave her a traumatic brain injury. And she was in a coma for 30 years. She was left in a coma, and most of the doctors said she'd never open her eyes again. But that was until last year, when she woke up in a German hospital room. Her family spoke exclusively to the national news about their ordeal for the first time, describing a modern-day miracle and how she was woken into quite a different world. And her son said, I never gave up on her because I always had a feeling that one day she would wake up. Her son was 4 years old when it happened. Think about that. Can you imagine, number one, going to sleep 30 years ago? Just picture yourself going to sleep and not waking up for another 30 years. Now, when we go to sleep, it's almost like when we wake up, time doesn't exist. At least it doesn't for me. That's how it feels. Like when I go into a deep sleep and I wake up 8-9 hours later, it doesn't feel like 8 or 9 hours. I might remember like a couple of dreams. Maybe. If I'm lucky, I'll remember a couple of dreams. But I'm trying to imagine. I mean, can you imagine 30 years? We've talked about false awakenings. Think about that. I was looking to see if she remembered, if she had any dreams, if she experienced anything. But you hear about these people that when they go into a dream or a false awakening that they get stuck, right? And they feel like they can't get out. So I just wonder about that. Either way, it's freaky, right? That'd be like me going to sleep in 1982 and waking up right about now, you know. I'm going to sleep listening to the Police and looking at people with stupid hair and crazy makeup, you know. There ain't no such thing as cell phones, not even a flip phone, not even a car phone. Well, maybe a car phone. And then I wake up to this, man. People are just buried in devices. As everywhere I look, they got devices in their hand and they're looking into them and they can access information and they can talk and FaceTime with anybody they want to. And we got self-driving cars. That's got to be a freaky experience for her. But either way, I just started thinking about that. Like that would be kind of crazy. But also, like, what would it be like inside there? Did she have false awakenings? Did she have out-of-body experiences? These are the kind of people that I'm going to try to talk to more and more on this broadcast. I want to get deeper and heavier into the UFO field. I'd like to. But to be honest with you, I don't know who I can trust in this field. Like Tim is pretty much the only person I can trust when it comes to this type of research and journalism. I mean, there's other people I listen to, yeah, like Richard Dolan, stuff like that. But with this TSA stuff, To the Stars Academy, and then it seems like everybody that writes about it, Knapp, and everybody who is talking about it that are so-called journalists, they got invested money into it. And I don't know I think Jimmy Church said he didn't invest in it. I don't know, but it's like, who do you trust? How can you trust somebody that invests thousands of dollars into something and then says, well, I'm not financially in bed with them or whatever. Dude, you got your money invested in them. We want to know the truth about this stuff. So I feel like until we have some real disclosure, all we can do is just keep rehashing stories, and hopefully we're gathering the team here at Lighting the Void, and I've made a couple of phone calls to some people that are going to help out with the show a little bit more. But hopefully we can find some people that have had new experiences and talk to them. So we're not giving up on ufology. It's just the mainstream stuff. It's very, very hard to trust. So I would advise you, if you really want to look into this, to follow UFO seekers. They're out in the field every day. They're doing the work. They're doing the research. And that's just my opinion on the matter. Calvin Parker and I'm not saying that other people's stories are BS, but I think his story is real. And so I promise you, we're going to get back into this. I'm just not going to go mainstream, as you probably would like. And I apologize about that. But sometimes to get to the truth, we got to go around the main trail. And I watch it, man. I've watched Tim take all kinds of scrutiny for saying certain things about it. Truthful things, man. Like, if you're going to find the truth about something, even if it's there, you got to find out who the liars are, right? You got to find out who's lying first, and that'll lead you there, because you don't know who's telling the truth. But it's not hard to spot a liar most of the time, because they'll trip over themselves. And when it comes to the Stars Academy, you guys know my stance on it. I thought, well, maybe let's just see. And that's what I'm saying now. Let's see what happens. They're supposed to come out with something next. My hopes aren't as high as they were before, but let's see. All right. And so we're going to finish this thing on Gnosticism, though, because I feel it's more important. I feel like the ancient mystery schools, the ancient teachings, and who we are on our own divine nature has more to do with aliens and ufology than most people think. And so when we come back from the break, we're going to be speaking with Miguel Connor from Aeon Byte Gnostic Radio. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Howdy, this is Catalina, and you're listening to Lighting the Void with Joe Roop.
This is Crow 777, and you are listening to The Fringe FM.
Hey guys, do you struggle with low testosterone levels? Symptoms of low testosterone affect your optimum functioning as a man, and this includes loss of motivation, fatigue, and lack of libido. Well, now there's a way to increase your testosterone levels and combat these symptoms, and do it naturally. How? It's called Red Stag for Men, the all-new male enhancement formula designed to do just that. Red Stag is formulated with some of the most frequently studied natural ingredients that are known to raise higher testosterone levels. Higher testosterone levels have been known to increase your drive, as well as reduce body fat, improve lean muscle mass, and boost your energy. Red Stag is taken once daily, yet works all day naturally. So go to myredstag.com right now and get your 60-day supply. Red Stag. Remember, take the red pill. Proven ingredients, proven performance. Go to myredstag.com right now. That's myredstag.com.
I'm Ryan Gable, and I want to remind you to keep your radio, phone, tablet, or computer tuned to The Fringe FM, and visit the website thefringe.fm to listen to the entire lineup of shows. You can also catch my broadcast, The Secret Teachings, Monday through Friday, beginning at 12 a.m. midnight U.S. Pacific Time, right here on The Fringe FM.
Who were the real ancient Egyptians? What is it about ancient Egypt that captivates us all? The critically acclaimed series Magical Egypt is back with all new episodes. Let Chance Gardner and company take you on another adventure through Magical Egypt in the new series Magical Egypt 2. Magical Egypt 2 attempts a forensic reconstruction of the science of the ancients through a study of ancient aesthetics. Also, the best researchers and authors in the field like John Anthony West, Graham Hancock, Laird Scranton, Robert Bouval, Lon Duquette, Aaron Cheek, and more join together to explore the topics of the esoteric and the hidden messages of the ancient Egyptians. Just go to magicalegypt.com right now and put in the code word FRINGE and get 10% off any download or order, including the groundbreaking original Magical Egypt series, as well as the new episodes in Magical Egypt 2. Also, check out the great work and the companion series at magicalegypt.com. Click the banner on the Fringe FM or go to magicalegypt.com and use the code word FRINGE and get 10% off your order today while it lasts.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now. The Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
Okay, nurse, let's get this man to the ER stat.
Right away, doctor.
We see this every day. Heart attack or angina pain due to blocked and clogged arteries. Chelation can remove obstructions or blockages from arteries and help avoid painful and expensive surgery. Now there's Angioprim. It's a liquid oral chelation product that you take with juice. You start to feel the results fast. Angioprim increases blood flow all over the body, and that means more energy and strength to take on the day with less aches and pains. 60 years of research has gone into chelation, and Angioprim is the result. A safe and easy way to unblock your veins and arteries from buildup that slow circulation.
Paging Dr. Jones. Please report to the emergency room right away.
Log on now for a special radio offer from Angioprim. That's angioprim.com/radio. ANGIOPRIM. Angioprim.com/radio or call 877-882-7221. That's 877-882-7221.
All right, welcome back to Lighting the Void. Let's bring on our guest. Miguel Connor is a professional storyteller, garage philosopher, and hedge historian. His life quest is to take audiences from ancient connections to a modern meaning. He is the author of the critically acclaimed Voices of Gnosticism and Other Voices of Gnosticism, and the post-apocalyptic vampire epic series, The Dark Instinct Trilogy, as well as fantasy novel, The Executioner's Daughter. He is also the host of Aeon Byte Gnostic Radio, a cult show dealing with the forbidden wisdom of the Gnostics that is more relevant than ever in a fracturing world. His articles and fiction have appeared in such publications as The Gnostic Journal, The Heretic, Mindscape, Reality Sandwich, The Sumerian Journal, and many others, including an author of the month for Graham Hancock's website. He has lectured and appeared at such events as the Golden Dawn, the Mythicist Milwaukee, the Alan Eisenberg Show on AM 1400 WRJN, Magic Radio, 1680 AM in Chicago, Rune Soup, Skeptico, the Higher Side Chats, the Gnostic Countercultures Conference at Rice University. This is one I've been looking forward to for a minute. Welcome to the show, Miguel Connor. What I'd like to ask is, because all of this week I've been kind of going into this stuff as far as Gnosticism goes, and it's kind of confusing from my point of view because there's so much stuff about Gnosticism. In your point of view, just in general, what is Gnosticism?
Gnosticism, yeah, that's obviously a good question. Traditionally, Gnosticism was simply seen as an ancient Christian heresy. Those were these Christians that lost the battle against orthodoxy in the first few centuries as Christianity grew and coalesced and became more of a corporation. They were the guys on the outside looking in. Eventually, pretty much we could say that they were exterminated, although there is some evidence they simply their message was too niche, too anarchist, too individualistic to really win the battle, especially as you're growing a religion, it's just not the type of message you want, and their theologies were very radical. I would probably agree with April DeConnick in her groundbreaking book, The Gnostic New Age. She says very, I think, astutely that the Gnostic Gospels didn't become heretical. It wasn't that one day somebody said they were too bad, is that they were heretical from the outset, because the Gnostics, and we can go beyond just the Christian Gnostics, I can explain that down the road, they really offered a message that was controversial in those times, because their message was, put simply, that we were trapped not in a false world, but in a fabricated world. It wasn't the nice illusion of Maya or something like that, or this was a playground or even a testing ground. This was an all-right prison, as the author Sam Criss likes to call it, a bad software like the Matrix. And we were trapped in this again, bad construct, as Philip K. Dick called it, the black iron prison. And what was trapped? Well, within each human being was a shard of divinity, or as some of the Gnostics call it, the divine spark. Some have called it a shard of, a shard of infinity. And this shard of infinity was actually part of a supreme consciousness that went beyond the universe, beyond this construct, this fabricated reality. And it was from an ultimate source, which the Gnostic texts called it the alien God. And for reasons that they talked about in their myths, through some sort of cataclysm or glitch in the creation, or in consciousness trying to understand itself, some lower agencies came and took the power of this God, this alien God, and trapped it in this world to fuel it, and again created this black iron prison to trap us. And certain individuals would sort of awaken through various means and do these ecstatic shamanistic rituals, which could make contact with this alien God beyond not the construct. That included the lower gods, but also included their representatives down here on earth, the churches, the governments, all that. It was part of the construct, and the Gnostic could create these ecstatic shamanistic rituals to fly beyond the sublunar worlds to higher planes and make contact with this alien God. And by making contact with this alien God, they could come down and become you might say, whole, individuated. As April DeConnick calls them, they could become mortal gods. Each one of us had that ability. And by becoming mortal gods, we could break away from the wheel of death and rebirth. We could gain enlightenment, peace, infinite knowledge of things, and just become really good people. And the spark that the spark that it would awaken a person was usually brought through what you might call a Gnostic revealer, someone who imparted mysteries to those who were already sort of trying to awaken. And these Gnostic revealers took many forms in the Gnostic Gospels. It could be Jesus, it could be Hermes, and it could be Mary Magdalene. With some of the later Gnostics, it could actually be the Buddha. And these Gnostic revealers were here to help us find these rituals and this knowledge to tell us that the world was false, it was fabricated, that bad software, and we were trapped in it. And B, what were these mystical rituals that could help us escape and gain this power to become whole and help others become whole too. Again, this journey of awakening, which and everything I've described, was what the Gnostics called knowledge, that sort of gnosis, that divine direct experience with this higher power and that fulfillment of your soul and your heart to become, as scholar Robert Price called the Gnostics, Christian bodhisattvas. They were enlightened beings who could help others escape the black iron prison. And of course, this is very controversial because you have to remember that in ancient times, and not in ancient times, in 90% of the world today, the idea that your gods are false, that they're actually more or less demons, that didn't fly very well. The idea that they're representatives, because in ancient times they believed in the theory of correspondence, that the gods put the priests and the kings down here on earth, so they were part of the divine plan. That's even in Neoplatonism and other ancient traditions. And the Gnostics simply came out and said, no, this is all false. You guys are all working for these tyrant beings. The Gnostics associated the Old Testament God with this sort of tyrannical ruler that controlled the entire universe. They called him Yaldabaoth, but it was obviously they were talking about Jehovah. They rejected the Old Testament as basically the biography of a demented being who ruled the earth in a very haughty way, in a very tyrannical and incomplete way, just to make us his slaves. But they even went further. They would talk about, in some of the groups, they would talk about the gods Osiris or Kronos, or even Isis. They said all these gods are basically imperfect, there are divine, but they're semi-conscious and they're not good for humanity. In other words, humanity was better. So that would go like a lead balloon, not just in ancient times, but it certainly would probably not go very well here. As I'm talking about this, I think your listeners, a lot of them probably know by now that this sounds very much like the movie The Matrix.
Absolutely.
So I think if your listeners really want a good touch point on understanding Gnosticism, I would say go watch The Matrix. I mean, the architect would be the Old Testament God. Agent Smith and the other guys would be the archons, which is what the Gnostics call the subordinates or toadies of the demiurge or the architect or the Old Testament God, and obviously Neo. You remember, if you watch The Matrix, Neo is very much goes through the Gnostic process. He's sort of depressed. He feels like an outcast. He feels he doesn't belong. He knows there's something wrong with this world. You don't know what it is. It's like a splinter in your mind driving you mad. That's what Morpheus tells him. And Morpheus is the Gnostic revealer, because he comes and he tells Neo, let me tell you why you're here. Let me tell you the truth. And he gives him the red pill. That's that moment of gnosis for Neo, and the moment of gnosis for any Gnostic awakening, when you see the world as it is. So I would certainly say, The Matrix it's a good place to start.
And you feel, because everything that you're saying feels, it doesn't just sound, but it feels more true to me than most of everything I've ever been taught, spiritually, religious-wise, and everything. Do you feel that this narrative is probably closer to the truth than anything we know?
I would say so. I mean, I was one of those people. I mean, like Neo, I don't know if you're the same way, but I always felt like an outcast. As a kid, I always felt, well, I don't really belong. There's something missing. I have that existential angst that the Gnostics talk about. In fact, some scholars say that the Gnostics were really one of the first existentialists when they talk about how they're writing how their feelings of being outcast and they're thrown into this chaos. And I always felt like an outcast. There were times in my life I was one of those guys who would say, well, maybe if I'd been born in medieval times, maybe if I was born in the future, maybe if I was born in this time or that time, I'd feel better. But as I kept getting older, and also as I kept attempting different faiths, like I tried Buddhism, I tried Hinduism, I tried being an atheist, all that, it just didn't work. It's when I started reading the Gnostic Gospels and truly understanding them, that's when I went, aha, this makes sense to me. The fact that I'm in this prison, or some call it this prison planet, that makes sense. I have been trapped here, and maybe sometimes the bars are made of gold, like Cypher in The Matrix, eating that steak and having that good wine. But there's always that splinter in my mind driving me mad. And I realized one day I am trapped here, and so are my fellow human beings, so are so many other souls in this world. And it seems by design. I don't see some grand divine plan where everything's going to work out, and if we just are good servants and do what we're told and go with the flow, everything's going to work out. I don't think anything's going to change throughout the many lifetimes. I think it's a matter of awakening, understanding this, and go on the most radical revolution you can. As scholar Eric David said, the Gnostic way is way out. He called them the first spiritual off-worlders because they were going to go beyond the traditional levels or planes of existence that you find. But they were really drawing from ancient Egyptians. I think that's one of the sources of the Gnostics, obviously, because when you read some of the Egyptians' texts, like in the 3rd BC, it's sort of the same thing. In the Gnostic rituals, again, I keep saying shamanistic, but they really were shamanistic because, as the church fathers called them, they called the Gnostics the sons of Pythagoras. And that's because Pythagoras was deputized by a Mongolian shaman. So the church fathers are saying they come from that tradition that also was in Egypt and Greece, and that's that ecstatic tradition of leaving your body and going through this sort of astral flight to very far places and trying to come back to your body. So to me, it seemed like a perfect fit, but it's not something I would. It's hard for people to really accept that this is you might say one of the worst. This is the highest plane of hell, and again, sometimes the bars seem to be made out of gold. But at the end of the day, this is not home. I think that's the ultimate thing is when I am honest with myself, I can say, okay, maybe this place is nice. Maybe, it's got its things, but this is not home. It can't be home. I mean, who designed this place where every life form depends on the death and suffering of another life form? That beyond that, suffering is ingrained in every animal and human in this world, and that's never going to end. That no matter what happens, we humans seem to be programmed to destroy ourselves. And the law of the jungle is even more amoral than what humans can do. I mean, there is an intense amount of suffering out there in nature, and we kind of dress it up like the circle of life and all that. And I'm like, what are you talking about? The Lion King was eating his own subjects. Doesn't anybody want to stand up and say this is insane at some point, instead of sort of accepting this divine plan and this grace and we are all one and all that stuff? At some point, I think that's why I like about the Gnostics, because they weren't going to compromise. They said, look, everybody is in a lot of pain and we're pretending we're not in a lot of pain, and there's a lot of sentient beings that are suffering, and this has to be done by some demented intelligence. This cannot be the act of A, randomness, because again, it seems like it's insane, some of the way the universe is structured, and B, it's just not kind or loving in any sort of way. Of course, there's a lot of divinity in this universe because, again, the Gnostics would say, yeah, there is divinity in everything. Some would say, like this Gnostic master called Mani, he said, God is in every blade of grass and there is holiness in every rock. But at the same time, it's covered and trapped in this darkness that seeks to keep us ignorant, seeks to keep us asleep, seeks to keep us in suffering if we have to, so we just won't wake up. I mean, I keep going back to the Matrix, but you can also throw in other visual content like the Truman Show, the TV show Westworld, Altered Carbon, the other HBO show. So there's plenty of other, you might say, Gnostic films that can give your audience an understanding of what Gnostic. The Lego movie, believe it or not, the first Lego movie is very Gnostic because it really ends up being about this tyrannical father, this godlike figure who wants perfection, who wants order. The more perfection and order he wants, like the God of the Old Testament or the architect in the Matrix, the worse things are. The less innovation, creativity, love, that gets stifled. And that's very much like Paul says, it's the letter killeth, but the spirit giveth life. So I think with all these ideas, I think your audience can pretty much understand who the Gnostics were and why they were like they were and why they were hated, because that kind of attitude is, that anarchist attitude, that individualist attitude, that's going to get you in trouble in ancient times and modern times. We still see it today everywhere. Yeah. You speak the truth. What did George Orwell say? Speaking the truth in times of universal deceit is an act of revolution. So I would agree with that.
Yeah, for sure. And I noticed something too. When I told my audience that I was going to be interviewing you, I found out that a lot of my audience already listens to you. They were like, "Oh, well, this is great. I'm glad And they said, I consider you a Gnostic. And I'm like, well, I don't know that I'm a Gnostic, right? I don't even know what it means. But you really, really helped define it for me. The reason why I say that I get confused is because every Gnostic text I've studied, like, there's the Pistis Sophia, the Gnostic Bible, the Nag Hammadi Library. There's the stuff that Samael Aun-Weor put out, which seems to me like it's a whole other sect of Gnosticism, but still has some of the same underlying truths that you're talking about. I mean, this guy's putting out rituals that have you travel to star systems and talk to certain genies and stuff. And I'm thinking, what in the hell is this? What do you think about that Samael Aun-Weor guy?
I think Samael is more of an eclectic occultist. I would see him more as a Crowley for the Hispanic community. He throws in a lot of stuff. I have friends who are Weirites, as we call them, and I have friends who aren't, have very unkind opinions about them, because my friends who are Weirites are very kind and good people. I have to say, I have nothing bad to say about them, and they certainly, as they say, I know them by their fruit, but I do have other colleagues who are very much against them because they feel that Samuel Weir was plagiarizing Gurdjieff. They feel that it's just, again, it's sort of a pastiche of different occult traditions. It's obviously, he started his work before the Nag Hammadi Library came out. He was basing himself more on the Pistis Sophia, which is sort of a later, the Pistis Sophia is a later work. And it's actually a reaction against sex magic Gnostics in Egypt. So it tends to slam homosexuals, and it tends to talk about withdrawing your semen. But again, as scholars have pointed out, it's a reaction. There was these sex magic Gnostics in Egypt called the Carpocratians and the Simonians. And later on, there was more, times change, and it became, there was more of a conservative movement, both in Gnosticism and Christianity. So they wrote it sort of a polemic against them. Now, you may say why it's confusing. With all these texts, there are some commonalities that you could find. And again, I can go down the list. It's this is a false world, and we're trapped by other forces in this world. Maybe the forces are our mind, maybe they're our ego, maybe they're demons. Your mileage may vary, and it's certain varied with the Gnostics. B, how bad the world is really depends. I mean, when you look at the Hermetics from Egypt, the pagan Gnostics, they really thought the world was fine. In their mythology, what happened is that you had the great mind was sort of creating the universe or understanding itself, and it created this being called man, the primal man, to keep him company. But the primal man became enamored by his own image, kind of like the myth of Narcissus, and he fell into the material world. So the Hermetics thought, well, this world is actually a good place, but it's not home. We still need to get out, and it's still a place of suffering, a place of temporality, a place where ultimately your flesh and others are going to fail you. Other Gnostics were more hardcore and punk, like the ones I talked about, the Carpocratians, the Sethians. They said, no, this is the Matrix. This is the Black Iron Prison. This is an evil place, that bad software that Sam Criss wrote about, and we need to go to war and get the hell out of here. So they varied because the Gnostics were very individualistic. The one thing that was always on the table was speculation. Now, you couldn't speculate on you being trapped in the world. That's part of Gnosis. Simple as that. And two is what are the rituals you are going to take to get out of this world, to make contact with this alien God that is beyond everything, that is beyond matter, beyond the universe, beyond all the multiverses. So that's why some people get confused, because people say, well, what were the rituals? And I said it didn't matter what the rituals were, because Gnosticism was a metaphysical orientation. You were, wherever you were in the world, you were meant to find the rituals and use those rituals to take those astral flights to make contact with the alien God, get past beyond the archons or the agents or the ruling angels who didn't want you to leave, even with the Hermetics, and then come back and become transformed with it through Gnosis. And these teachings were usually imparted by, again, a Gnostic revealer, Hermes or Jesus or some teacher who could teach you these very sacred mystery school rituals. So, for example, in Egypt, those who, again, I'm saying it's a metaphysical orientation, those who would awaken to the gnosis, they would draw upon what was popular in Egypt, and that would be sex magic, alchemy, and so forth. Those in Rome, who were called the Valentinians at the time in the 2nd century, they would use sacraments and other things. Others would use meditation. Others would do very, again, sort of mystery school rituals where they dress up and take ergot and entheogens and other stuff like that. Others, there's even some rituals where they would just sit around and talk about their problems. 2,000 years ago, as Carl Jung said, they were the first depth psychologists. They'd sit around and talk about, my past was hard and I had trauma. So it didn't matter what they did. It didn't matter 2,000 years ago. It doesn't matter today. If you have an orientation that you understand the Gnostics, you have a gnosis, you have an awakening, then it's a matter of finding what you need for yourself to be a complete individual. Find those rituals and escape. So that's why sometimes it gets a little confusing, because a lot of their texts too are disguised rituals, as scholars have found out, that are they're coded language to tell us these are the rituals, this is what we do, and we've lost a lot. But I think when you see those characteristics of the Gnostics, then it starts making sense, whether you're reading the Pistis Sophia or the Gospel of Philip or the Secret Book of John or even the Gospel of Thomas, which it's very different. It's more pseudo-Gnostic, I would say. It's a different sort of community. They were more Jewish, but you'll see it all there.
Okay, all of this stuff, I used to ask myself, Miguel, like, what if we just die and that's it, right? And this is all just something we're trying to make up because we're afraid of death. I used to ask myself that until I had a real, I guess David Shoemaker would call a real etherical out-of-body experience. And I realized some people will never believe me on that, but I did have that. And that's what got me into this. Okay, now what does that imply? Right? Because this has to imply something, because that was not a dream. Have you had any experiences like that, or has this all mainly been study and a way of life for you?
No, I've had experiences. I mean, I think you can rationally get to these conclusions, really any spiritual conclusion. I mean, when you listen to, let's say, Dean Radin, or you read Dean Radin or Gary Lockman, some of them, they've honestly said, hey, I've never had an experience, but I know this is true because I've researched it over and over again. I've got all the data, and this, there, as I like to say, it's a busy universe out there, and death is not the end. It's really only a beginning. As for myself, I have had supernatural experiences, and I did have an out-of-body experience when I was doing ayahuasca with a Christian shamanistic group in Europe one time, and I did have an astral flight, and I did, again, an out-of-body. So I have had many experiences. I've gone ghost hunting and interacted with spirits and other things that I've experienced. So that was never the issue. The issue with me is, as some have said, is these spirits or ghosts or anything, they're just as trapped as we are. And again, it really comes down to, you see this world as a prison, or do you not see the world? I mean, what did Hermes Trismegistos, the alleged or mythological founder of Hermeticism, say? As above, so below. So it makes perfect sense. I know, New Agers would go, well, that means it's a great world. And I would say no, because you can reverse engineer it. You can say, look, if the rulers of this world, if the priests and the teachers and the governors and the presidents and the pack leaders are botching things up, then maybe it's that way up in heaven too, because it seems this is it's streamlined across creation. At least I would say so.
You sent me a message when I was first going to interview you. The power went out here for the second time in a row in a week.
It's the archons. It was the archons.
And you said, I'm surprised you said those dang archons. I'm surprised they let a heretic like you live. And I laughed so hard when you sent me that message, but it got me thinking, because we've talked about magical and a psychic attack and all kinds of stuff on this show. But sometimes when I look back in my journal and some of the things that have happened, I really get pushed against, or certain weird things tend to happen when I'm about to make a breakthrough. And I wonder if you're really right about those kinds of things, you know?
I think so. I think it's designed. I think what's the old saying? He whom the gods like, they kill. He whom the gods hate, they make mad, and then they kill. I think with the archons, it's not, killing us, we're just going to transfer to the next destiny or incarnation, whatever that is. But I think if their greatest victory is to keep us asleep, to keep us numb, to keep us ignorant. And those three things are complete insanity. So they want to keep us as insane as possible so that we don't make contact with that divinity inside of us and make contact with these heaven or these, sublime forces beyond. So that makes much more logical sense than actually getting rid of us or sending us to some stupid hell where after 1 billion years we get used to the torture. Best thing is to keep us through all these incarnations, numb, asleep, eternal forgetfulness, and make sure we don't awake, because we fuel the very universe, and our imagination, our ideas, our innovation is what's really could bring so much meaning to this universe, to the cosmos. We, as humans, as the Hermetics said, we are not housed in the universe. The universe is housed in us. We can change the universe with our ideas and our art and our kindness and all that. So it makes sense, and I think I would agree with you. It seems the more gnosis I began to have, the more these odd things would happen to me, which were inexplicable or just really bad luck. And as a small example, there was, about 2 weeks ago, I was having an interview with this lady who had written this book about spirit and demon possession. Very detailed, very scholarly. She was a believer, but she wanted to make sure that it was skeptic proof, that she would bring all the data, that this stuff is real. Here's all the examples. I mean, you have to come to the conclusion there's something going on with spirit and demon possession. And I had so many Skype problems. And it's weird because where I live, it's been years and many years since the early days of podcasting that I had this much Skype burps, especially within the continental USA. Sometimes with Australia or something like that, there might be a few others, but for the most part, it's fine. And the lady's like, yep, that happens to me. They're after me no matter what, phone, Skype, whatever. When I start talking about this book, there's going to be interruptions. When you start opening your eyes and you take the red pill, you start seeing this rhythm, not just of a divine help, but you also see the archons playing around to make sure that, again, they keep us asleep.
The rituals that you were mentioning earlier, the ones that I rolled upon were the Golden Dawn rituals, right? Those are the ones I rolled on and actually had some pretty profound experiences with them. And again, until I talked to Gordon White, and he gave me a bigger outlook on magic as a whole. But these rituals did work. And yet, when I study Gnosticism and listen to your work, the first thing they do in the lesser banishing ritual, the pentagram, is invoke Jehovah, Mm-hmm. And I'm thinking, okay, is there a way around this? What I was always afraid of, Miguel, is that, this was going to open my mind. I was going to be able to go into the inner realms and do my spiritual work. But what if I was really doing this for all the wrong reasons, for the wrong person, right? And I totally agree with you when it comes to the Old Testament, because even if that turns out to be the God of this world, I'm totally in rebellion against somebody like that,
Mm-hmm.
So...
Yeah, I would say so too. I mean, especially how he's portrayed. I think when you read the work of like Margaret Barker, she talks, when you look at Yahweh, he was actually a much more multidimensional, complex being. Read her book, The Great Angel. It was very maternal. It was actually dealt with fertility. But at the end of the day, and it's your choice. People can work with whatever deity they want to. It's up to them. They get results. You enjoy the material world, enjoy what it brings to you. That's fine. But at the end of the day, the Gnostic argument would be, you're still dealing with the lower intelligence, and you're still not transcending to that ultimate place where you can break free from karma, from forgetfulness, from ignorance, where you can be completely transformed into a being of light and that can actually be helpful to others, that could also help end suffering and all that. Again, it's that Christian bodhisattva thing. So I would say that would be my advice. I mean, there is what's that group in Europe, the Fraternity of Saturn, and they're still going on. They're actually pretty big. They're just not that known in the United States, but they're very parallel to the Golden Dawn, but they work more out of Germany. Crowley knew about them. And they are very Gnostic and all their things, but they've decided that they're going to work with the demiurge. They're going to work with Saturn, who's obviously the alter ego of Jehovah from the Old Testament. These are the gods of limits, the gods of time, the gods of order, and the gods of law. And they said, yeah, we're just going to work with him. He's kind of a Dutch uncle, and he's stern, but this is the best we're going to do right now. And that's it. So I'd say, well, if that's the way you want to go, just do it.
Yeah, right. To each his own, right?
Yeah, I can't judge.
You wrote some books about Gnosticism, and you also wrote some fiction books. Now, I have to assume, and I just got Stargazer, by the way. I'm very thankful for that gift.
Thanks.
Thank you very much. Because I was looking at your books, and I was like, well, I got to get into these books, and signed up to the email list and got a surprise. So thank you for that.
Oh, no problem. Yeah, it's sort of my gift to everybody.
In your fiction work specifically, do you do like other fiction writers where you put this narrative inside the work of your fiction?
I don't. Well, it really depends. I mean, when I wrote Stargazer, I was a practicing Catholic. I think I'd heard about the Gnostics twice in college, the priests telling me that, that they were these heretical. So I had no idea about Gnostic philosophy, no idea about the occult. For the most part, I was a happy Catholic. I was a happy neocon. I was living the American dream. So it was basically a false dream, somebody else's dream, and it became my nightmare in time. But so when I wrote Stargazer, which has a lot of Gnostic themes, because it is about awakening, it is about becoming divine and good. It is about a false reality that gets put over the world, and friends have told me it's got all these other alchemical themes that are prevalent in Gnosticism. So this came from inside of me. I had no idea what it was, and I wouldn't know I would not understand or even touch upon the Gnostics for another 10 years. So I think the best way sometimes is just let the subconscious, your unconscious, which is really the part of you that is divine, speak out and tell the stories. Let those archetypal images come out and dictate it. Nothing wrong with expressing, a philosophy here or there if you want to, but at the end of the day, let your higher self, your daemon, as the ancients called it, and the Gnostics called it, to help you out.
Right on. And we got to take a break, but right after these messages, we'll be right back with Miguel Connor.
Hola, Fringe listeners. This is Dave Cruz of Beyond the Strange, and you're listening to The Fringe FM.
Alex.
Hi, I'm Alex Exum, and you're listening to The Fringe FM.
Get the Tea is the #1 cleansing tea in America. We cleanse you with organic ingredients, and when used daily, you can increase your energy. Cleanse from intruders that set up camp in your colon. Cleanse your colon and feel the difference. Colon cleanses can be uncomfortable. Not Life Change Tea at getthetea.com. Life Change Tea is mild yet truly effective. Cleanse your insides every day. Easy to make, easy to use, and feel the results. Are you sold? Okay, then here's how to order. Log on to getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. Look for our specials on the front page. Get the Tea also carries top-rated supplements for those who care about their health, naturally. Again, log on to getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com and feel the results. And for those of you that arm yourself with information, come to our webinar every other Monday at 5 p.m. Pacific time. That's every other Monday at 5 p.m. Pacific. You can sign up at getthetea.com.
The Fringe FM isn't just a radio station. We also provide services for all your audio production needs. If you are interested in live radio or pre-recorded podcasts, we're here to help. We even do audio enhancements and voiceovers if needed. If you want to do a podcast or live radio show and even want the option to syndicate on terrestrial radio, from simple audio file enhancement to live production and call screening, we have you covered. We have worked with some of the best professionals in the business in order to provide coaching instruction for content creation, show structure, and more. Contact The Fringe Digital Media for more at info@thefringe.fm. That's info@thefringe.fm. Or call 501-777-5631 for a consultation.
Did you know that qualified patients can access medical cannabis in all 50 states? CannaSense is a medical cannabis collective that helps patients in all 50 states gain access to cannabis medication. CannaSense does this with a streamlined process and strict compliance with the Compassionate Use Act of 1996, the Affordable Care Act, and the U.S. Constitution. It is important for each patient to understand the legalities involved, the costs, and the benefits of cannabis medication. Through truth, legalization, and education, the medical benefits of cannabis will supplant recreational perceptions, and the real vision for change will be realized. Let the people and their personal doctors take control of their medical cannabis decisions before the greed of big business takes over. The tipping point for change is today, and CannaSense is ready to lead the charge and enable legal access for all qualified patients to medical cannabis through its proven system. For more information, go to thefringe.fm/care or click the banner on the website today.
This portion of the show is being brought to you by... never mind.
AncientLifeOil.com. For your CBD needs, just remember, AncientLifeOil.com. What does it do for the body, you ask? I can't say to the people in the suits that run the industry. Big Pharma's all over CBD because of its well, you know what I mean. Research the benefits of CBD on Google and come back to AncientLifeOil.com and purchase your CBD today. Non-GMO and all organic. You don't want to be using a petroleum product. You want to be using the cleanest CBD product on the market. AncientLifeOil.com. We even have CBD for your pet. Help your pet's discomfort. Help your discomfort. Log on to AncientLifeOil.com. That's AncientLifeOil.com. Newly reduced prices to pass off the savings to the most important person. You. AncientLifeOil.com. And one more thing. We have topicals too. So if you have joint pain and some different issues that are going on in your body, you might want to use a topical. Think about it. AncientLifeOil.com.
All right, welcome back to Lighting the Void. I'm your host, Joe Roop. We're here with Miguel Conner, author and host of Aeon Byte Gnostic Radio. I got to say, Miguel, that when I went into this, when I just started this journey, because I'm into ufology and everything, but when I started this journey, I got lots of emails, countless emails from people that claim that I'm some type of Christian hater, that I'm against Christianity. And I totally understand that word heretic now. Where they get that word from, because I don't feel that way. I feel like I'm trying to express what real Christianity might have possibly been, and yet I get a lot of vitriol. Do you get the same?
I would say so. I mean, not really vitriol, more like save yourself, you're damned to hell, all that. Is right. That? But I don't think I ever get anything that I hate Christianity, because I think when people look at my record, I mean, Gnosticism was part of the conversation in early Christian days, not even in early, but also in Jewish. I mean, then as we talked about how it was a metaphysical orientation and they would adopt these different rituals, they tended to be almost parasitical with other religions. They would latch on to these religions and almost appear like them. but they always had their own take on everything. I mean, there wasn't Gnostic groups, there were Gnostic lodges, and again, they had these rituals. So they were also part of the Jewish conversation, they're part of the pagan conversation, they were going to the Neoplatonic universities. They went all the way to Asia and got embedded with the Buddhists. So, but anyway, they were part of the Christian conversation. So, and I believe in that central theme to have good conversations with others. So I have had, for example, I've had Greek Orthodox on my show, Jay Dyer. I've had a Baptist minister. I have had Presbyterian ministers. I've had ex-Catholic priests and Anglican priests. So I've always kept the conversation going because I do like to see where there's a lot of commonalities, not just with Christianity, but other religions too. I've had Muslims and everything. So I've always tried to keep a nice conversation. So I don't think, even with my sort of bombastic intros where I'm slamming Jehovah and Orthodoxy, all that, I think people do understand that at the end of the day, I want to have some engaging, rewarding conversations, and I want the audience to make up their own damn mind what they want to do. I will always tell people, don't follow the path of the Gnostic, because it's brutal. I mean, it's hard when you just realize you are at the bottom of this machine and you're about to get crushed, and it's a long way home. Nobody wants that. I mean, we all want to think that if I just do this and this, everything will be okay and the next life will be awesome, and things are really under the control of some benign intelligence out there. It's not easy. So I think, if anything, I've tried to have good conversations, and in a way it's probably not helped my numbers, because I think in the age of the internet, it's friction and long arguments and all that really gets you the views and the likes and all that, but it's just not the way I like to operate.
Yeah, I totally understand that. They want the hype and the controversy. They get addicted to that a little bit, for sure.
Right. People want to see Sargon of Akkad argue with some feminist out there. That's what gets people excited. Again, what we were talking about, the archons, like, not only ignorant and all that, but they love the divide and conquer. If humanity and culture and the universe itself is always in a state of tension, always in a state of conflict, like in 2001, the ape beating the other ape with the stick, then they're happy because people won't have to look inside. They won't have to live the contemplative life. They won't have to take those nice actions. It's always going to be, I mean, as I say, that's how the archons win, whether it's in the material world, the digital world, or the heavenly world.
Yeah, earlier you mentioned soul shards, and I forget the name of the guy, but there's this other guy that talks about this as like a shaman type guy who's really well known, and I think that that's probably true, because most of the people that I talk to, they say, well, Joe, I just can't relate to anybody. I have a hard time relating to the world. And I'm starting to get this idea, like, look, you're not supposed to relate to people. You're a unique individual that should have your own mind made up and your own creations and your own outlook on things. You're not supposed to follow suit with anybody but you. And I think that's hard for us to grasp. And that's a testament to the slave system in itself, right?
Oh, that's really well said. Yes. As soon as we start relating, as soon as we start doing what the pack does, again, we enter in a state of forgetfulness. And as you said, we enter into, ultimately, we evolve into a state of slavery, of bondage. And that's not what we want. Of course, it doesn't mean to always be in a state of complete conflict and war with others. I'm an individual, I'm mad as hell. I'm not going to, you have to find that inner peace and that harmony to be able to get to communicate with others and express others, your ideas and how you can benefit and all that. It's, again, the Gnostic Gospels are very dark. Their mythology is very dark. It's pornographic. It's rated R when violence. It's almost like some of it's like reading a Lovecraft novel. But when you really see what's happening, there is always a giddy happenings and a transformation in those who wrote it. They are ecstatic. They are so happy they can't take it. And they're already they're already beyond the stars. They're so happy part of it. But at the same time, they're not satisfied because they realize, crap, I have awoken and I am there, I am the one or whatever, but there are others suffering. And as long as there's other sufferings, as long as I cannot be available to them, then I haven't done my job. I haven't done what Jesus wants me to do, or the Buddha, or whatever the Gnostic revealer, that higher teacher, that moral teacher who also imparts the mystery. So I think that's important to know too. So
speaking of which, the Jesus character is, do you think that Jesus actually walked the face of the earth, or Jesus is just this mythological, astrotheological state of consciousness that we need to try to become one with? I tend to think, and it's just my opinion, I think that it could be a little bit of both. But, a lot of people don't understand what I mean when I say that.
Yeah, it could be both. I mean, I think from an intellectual place, I would say I don't see any reason to think there was ever a historical Jesus. I see him more as an archetypal image of the Savior or the Gnostic revealer. He's a great representation of the rising and dying God-man motif or trope, that death and renewal that happens until there is complete transcendence. I guess the Gnostics themselves they had varying views, because again, for the Gnostics, everything could be speculated except for a few things. So some of them were, he came in the flesh and he was this wise Jewish teacher. Others said, no, he was this sort of phantom that could change shapes and appear in our heads and all that. And but I would say, for me, no, I don't see any reason to think that he was historical. But I'm not, again, it's not my dogma. I would say if I had, my first position, I would say Jesus was a myth, the Christ myth theory. But my second one, and it's not too far off, my second one would be the Jesus, the magician theory, I think, with the work of Morton Smith and Robert Connor. It does show very well that Jesus was probably this ultra powerful sorcerer who got into some trouble with some dark forces.
Yeah, there's some text, I think, that I read. I don't know who the author was, but I know that where Hebrews were stating that Jesus as a child would actually put hexes on other people for giving him a hard time.
Right.
Stuff,
I think the infancy gospel of Thomas and others. But there are a lot of the Jewish texts, but after Jesus, 2nd, 3rd century, they go out plainly and say he was a wizard. I mean, scholars simply say, well, back then with Christianity rising, they were just talking smack about Jesus. But I think there's some good evidence for it.
The role of Lucifer, and before I get into Satan, I guess the role of Lucifer has always perplexed me. Because you got people like Jordan Maxwell who want to say that Lucifer and Jesus are the same thing. Bill Cooper came out and said, there's 2 verses about the morning star. Both of them say that they're the morning star, and I don't pretend to know what it is. I know Gordon White and others have touched on it. There are other people that believe Lucifer is the ultimate light bringer, right? What do you think the role of Lucifer is so far from your studies?
That's a good question. I mean, I try to look at it from an archetypal way. I know I love Gordon's ideas that you have to divide Lucifer, Satan, and devil into 3 categories, because that's just the way history has made this force. But in my view, Lucifer, the archetype, is the archetype of the light bringer, but he's also the archetype of the trickster, of the enlightener. I think, what did Richard Smalley say once? That Hermes was the trickster, the god of tricks, but he was also the god of the mind. That is no accident. In other words, enlightenment does come at a price, and it can come at a very steep price. And I'm sure the Gnostics would agree. Anybody who has Gnosis would agree. You and I are talking about the prices we've had to pay for things, for this Gnosis, for these revelations from the spirit world and our magic and all that. So I think that's what it is. I mean, obviously, these archetypes are ancient, and they are unique, and they manifest in different cultures in different ways. I mean, you can look at Lucifer as the god, I think it's Photon from the Greeks, where he takes the chariot of Apollo, and he gets too close to the sun and he falls. And that's the story of the light bringer. But it's also Icarus could be sort of a pre-Lucifer story or narrative. So there are many of those out there. and it just sort of coalesced into Lucifer. And of course, it keeps shifting and changing. I mean, I would say in the Gnostics, long before Lucifer, and even long before Satan was ever really, he got sort of a prime real estate as the number one villain in Christianity or the Abrahamic religions. You can look at the story of Sophia in Gnosticism, which is very ancient, probably 1st century or so. But in the Gnostic mythology, Sophia was the wisdom of God. She was, again, when I talk about the alien God, this was this consciousness that was trying to understand itself, and broke up into these aspects, these uncreated aspects, timeless personhoods or potentials. So the consciousness of the divine would break up into glory, would break up into logos, break up into goodness. One of these avatars, or as the Gnostic called them, Aeons, was Sophia. And in their text, Sophia decides to rebel, or she commits a transgression against the alien God or the divine mind. To the Gnostics, God was just the perfect mind, because they saw, like the Hermetics, that the mind, if including imagination and kindness and intuition, was the most powerful force in this universe. And for humans, it is. We can do so much with our mind. We could go to the stars. We can split atoms. Eventually we could break open dimensions. But anyway,
which we're working on, by the way, right now.
Yeah. I mean, with our mind, we can imagine ourselves we should be able to imagine ourselves to becoming gods if we wanted to. I'm sure other beings on other planets. There's something great about the mind. But anyway, so the alien mind, Sophia, rebelled, and she was kicked out of the mind of God, which the Gnostics call the pleroma, the fullness, and cast down into chaos. And in a lot of these stories, she goes through her own passion, and she creates the material universe, or gives the building blocks to the universe, becomes pregnant with her own distress, and actually gives birth to the demiurge, to the creator God, who then takes her power, scatters it in the universe, and then takes over and becomes the Lord of the universe. So Sophia becomes a Luciferian character because, like Lucifer, she's a fallen angel, she's a fallen Aeon, and now her role is to sort of teach mankind, to help mankind awaken so she can get her power back from her tyrannical son. Of course, we can even go back further. What does this story sound like? Well, look at the story of Prometheus. Prometheus is definitely a very ancient Luciferian character, because he steals fire from the gods to help humanity. He helps create humanity. And it's interesting because in the myth of Prometheus, he gives shape. Zeus says, I need slaves, basically. So Prometheus makes these clay people. Sound familiar? So he creates these clay people, and it is Athena who breathes life into it. She gives them the spirit or the divine spark, and that happens too in the Gnostic Gospels. It's Sophia who gives the divine spark to humans, because that's part of her operation to restore the entire universe and bring it back to herself. And it is actually Athena, again, wisdom, who helps Prometheus go to the place where where Zeus keeps his fire trapped and all that. So again, the story of Lucifer does resound and echo in so many cultures. I think it's something within us humans that at the end of the day, we are, what's the old saying? We are where the fallen angel meets the rising ape. We are really the potential and the outcast. We are the Lucifers. We are light bringers who have fallen, and we are trying to get that fire that we've forgotten about, that we lost, so that we can rise above to our place. We can rise to that place of wisdom, that place of Olympus or beyond Olympus that we belong. So I think, it's all an interesting, fascinating story, that of Lucifer and us.
You know, I might be stretching here, but I don't know if you're familiar with that band, Perfect Circle, but I always thought that they wrote a song called 3 Libras, and a lot of people thought that it was about a girl, but in the music video, he shows that, like, he's in a womb with these girl children. Next thing you know, he's on Earth, and he talks about you don't see me at all. So I always thought that he was talking about, eyes of a fallen angel. Those were my conclusions too. I don't really have anything to back it up other than what I feel based on what I've studied, that the fallen angel could be us. It could be just us falling from a divine state, trying to work our way back,
if it's in so many cultures and so many stories, and it's such an engaging, alluring story, there's something to it behind there.
The demiurge, though, is, if the demiurge is real, which I think it is, at least from a metaphysical standpoint. I don't know about historically, but if the demiurge is real, then we're in a hell of a lot of trouble, guys like you and I and other people that are trying to get out of this. Do you think that, and I don't want to scare people, but do you think these things are actually capable of killing people that are trying to find their way out?
Yeah. I mean, it's bad because imagine, if you play a video game, the boss at the end of the video game is going to be just the biggest, baddest thing in the world. In fact, some video games have Yaldabaoth, the Gnostic demiurge, or something like that. Yeah. I mean, you've seen it in a few video games. So I think the Gnostic truth is like, crap, how do we go against the supreme being of the universe? How do we go against the architect of the Matrix? And that's where, as Leonard Cohen sang, there's a crack in everything. That's how the light get in. There are places in the Bardos or the liminal where there is power and there is light that we can use. But at the end of the day, remember, if the demiurge likes us, he's just going to kill us until the next life, and he might even reward us with the stake and a big mansion, and we're the next Elon Musk, because that's the best way to hide our divine spark. He might make us, I don't know, Trump or something, somebody so successful that we have no divinity within us. So, but for those who wake up, then we have to be put through the grinder. We've got to be, excuse me. We got to be put back to sleep, made numb, made forgetful, and that usually takes a lot of abuse, a lot of temptation, and a lot of what they would call insanity in this world. But that's just the way it is. Again, look at the Matrix, what Neo had to go through to eventually become a being that could actually function in both worlds. He was a being of light, and he was a being that could control both the digital and the material world. So yeah, it's hard, but like the video game, you start in one level and you just keep working your way up. And if you can find those flights through the other dimensions beyond the sublunar worlds, then you'll get those, you might say, those hit points and that armor and those weapons to fight the demiurge.
Yeah, Thomas Campbell, I've talked to him about that too, and he said that that's exactly what this is. It's consciousness in a video game. But see, these guys, they talk about that as if it's just a video game from a scientific point of view, and they're far more intelligent than me, and I totally respect it. But what they don't talk about is some of the things like Robert Monroe run into, like entities that he had to fight with, or even one part in a book where he ran into this entity that was of a serpent-like nature, and he knew inherently, he didn't ask, he just knew inherently that he was to lay down and let this thing crawl over his stomach in the astral realm and to not look up at it. I mean, what does that imply? That is crazy, right? And so there's got to be entities in the astral realm that these guys just don't, they just say, it's all in your imagination. And yet they're, I don't know, it's like science and the occult still don't meet up on certain things, if you know what I mean.
Right. It's getting a little bit better. At least science is starting to see more of the Gnostic view that we live in a simulation. They just haven't decided to give whoever is the bad software coder an identity. I mean, what somebody said the other day, history is won by the victors and reality is won by the coders. And the coders have been the archons. So, and they play a game of not making sure we don't know what they are. They're always at the corner of our eyes. They're always making us think that we're crazy for even questioning that they exist. But as a friend told me, he's studying to be a Gnostic priest, he's like, I don't know if the archons exist, but they sure act like they do, because all you have to do is look at the world, how weird this world is, how nature works, how evolution works. This is not intelligent design. It is an unintelligent, insane design when you look at it. And again, I keep going, there is just a lot of suffering out there. I think at the end of the day, just that proves my point. I mean, I have even friends of mine who are into Gnosticism, and they're more of the hermetic that, yeah, we're trapped, but this isn't a bad place. I'm like, how can you say there is anything divine in kiddie porn or kids being blown up in a Sri Lanka church, or the horrific things that happen? Or when I see roadkill here when I'm driving in Illinois, I'm like, that animal deserved better. Now it's just sitting there rotting. Nobody's going to eat it. It's just flies. I mean, this is not a good place. And I think we've been brainwashed or conditioned to think that it is. Again, there is a lot of divinity, and there is beauty, and there is kindness, but all of it is trapped in, again, I keep going back to Philip K. Dick, the Black Iron Prison.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that comes from denial, just denial of self. And I've literally said this on the air one time, like, why does one animal a day have to die for me to be happy? You know? And I mean, that's not something I'm proud of, but it's the truth. And when you start thinking about stuff like that, you don't want to face it, right? So you make up your own story. You make up your own, you make up some story that fits where you're not really victimizing or causing suffering to anything else, which is not really the truth. You are causing suffering to other things.
And it's humane that, like, no, it died. That animal deserved better. It deserved a few more days. It deserved to explore, maybe grow, maybe just live. I mean, life is supposed to be precious. I think any religion or faith would say that. Life is the great thrust and potential where divinity and intelligence and creation can really happen, and it gets aborted. So sure. I mean, I even talk, and of course, I know it's a no-win trap or a no-win situation, because at the end of the day, for example, some of the ancient Gnostics, they wouldn't even walk on grass because they felt they were hurting the god that was in the grass, or they would sit there like the Jains in India that wait for the fruit to drop off from the tree because they felt that they would even be hurting the plants because there was divine essence in the plants. And of course, at the end of the day, as a friend of mine likes to tell me, who's a Gnostic and mock me, and he's 100% right, he's like, are you aware that plants have the most complex DNA in this planet, maybe the universe? Are you aware that they have a very advanced form of communication, and they are like the internet before there was an internet? And I'm like, dude, I'm aware. I'm a vegetarian, and I still know I'm screwed. I still know I'm adding to the suffering of the world, and I'm no better than some guy who eats meat. I mean, that's the insanity of this universe. It's a no-win situation, it seems. Again, we're trying to wait for those cracks in that gnosis to, again, evolve and get to that next level of the video game.
Right, for sure. What about, I'm gonna go left turn on you here, Miguel. What about the abduction experience with all of the people that are quoting that they've had abduction experiences, whether it's in their sleep or whatever? I think that there's something when it comes to paranormal activity, even UFOs, because I've had one experience where it looked like something was interfacing or disappearing. I think whatever these things are could possibly be interfacing with this world. What do you think?
Oh, I would say so too. I've had one or two extraterrestrial experiences. Obviously, many individuals like John Lamb Lash and others have, they've completely fused Gnosticism with the extraterrestrial thing. David Icke is another great example, where the lizard people, or actually the overlords of the lizard people, are the archons, and there is Gaia and the demiurge and all that. So I think there's something to it. I mean, I would probably go more with, I would say there is an otherness out there. Like I say, it is a busy universe. There are advanced intelligences or more powerful intelligences out there. But as far as I know, I still subscribe that there are archons in the metaphysical world, and there's probably other planets who, other denizens who are going through the same thing. I mean, maybe at the end of the day, the archons are just aliens who are keeping us trapped here because they're going to feed off of us, or they need to put brain parasites in us, or they're experimenting. That might be true, but I haven't really, nothing I haven't gotten to there, or nothing new has been downloaded into my brain, but I am for sure know that there is definitely extraterrestrial entities out there. I'm just not sure on the mechanics. I think I like what Whitley Strieber once said. It's like, look, if there are aliens out there, they're not embedded with us. We're embedded with them. Right. They're at a level where they're interdimensional. They're completely in control of our senses and the reality. They don't even have to worry about being seen. And I guess you could say the same thing about the archons. In a way, the archons, that's exactly how the archons operate. We're just, we are here with them. We're just fleas on their skin.
I can tell right off the bat, Miguel, that you have read quite a few books. I mean, you've done your study on this stuff. Somebody that was really interested in this for the first time, and they were like, I want to learn more about this. What authors maybe would you tell them to dive into right off the bat?
I would say probably it's hard because, again, I keep going back to Gnosticism. It's so individualistic, and there's many entry points, and it has to speak to you, to your culture, where you're ready at. But for me, I would certainly advise Philip K. Dick. I think Velas and Radio Free Albemuth and The Divine Invasion are great works. For me, they really crystallize and maybe understand what Gnosticism was, because he really couched it or framed it in a sci-fi way, and it was in a modern way too. So I would certainly go with Philip K. Dick if you want to have some fiction spark your gnosis or understanding of Gnosticism. I think for nonfiction, I mentioned her, but I highly recommend April DeConnick's The Gnostic New Age. It's she does a great job because not only does she explain all the rituals, all the different sects and everything, but she relates every chapter of this Gnostic group to a movie that is popular today, like The Matrix or Altered States or even Superman, The Man of Steel. So you always get a movie to get a good framework to understand this different Gnostic sect with their different ideas. But of course, there's always a commonality in all her book of who the Gnostics were and all that. So I would definitely recommend April DeConnick for that one. I also, oddly enough, Grant Morrison, The Invisibles, I think is a great Gnostic gospel. Even though at the end, you find there's a big twist about the archons, but I think for understanding the dualism of the Gnostics, the idea of gnosis and the game that the archons play, I think Grant Morrison's The Invisibles is a great story too.
I'll have to agree with that totally. There is in the conspiracy world, it's like they're just now catching on to hypersigils and things in Hollywood and stuff like that. And it's a big thing to talk about now, but I'm still not sure about why it's happening. We've had the discussion on the show many times. There's a lot of TV shows and movies that go from all the way back as early as you can think to now, but it seems more prevalent that there's a narrative, a metaphysical narrative that talks about mystery teachings inside of every freaking story, science fiction, movie, show, you name it. Do you think that people are just channeling this stuff because they inherently know the truth, or why do you think stuff like that is happening?
Man, that is a good question. I would honestly love to say, because we live in a Philip K. Dick world, I think Philip K. Dick is more popular than ever, and he, beyond expressing Gnostic ideas, he really loved the fusion of metaphysics and science fiction, not just Gnosticism, but what's the name of the book? The Man in the High Castle is about Taoism, or he would bring Persian ideas or occult ideas into his novels. So, and I think he has influenced a lot of the showrunners today that are bringing us science fiction, a lot of the Netflix shows and all that. I mean, even the creators of The Matrix, a lot of people. I mean, so I think there's just this generation that has been deeply influenced by Philip K. Dick and probably other luminaries, whether it's got some other authors or Stanley Kubrick or others. And I think that is starting to fuse itself in a lot of the stuff that's coming out. And I mean, of course, I'm a firm believer in synchromysticism. I think as the world was starting to sink into this rank scientism, and I think that part of the collective unconscious is screaming out, let's get into more metaphysics, into more higher learning, into some more magical thinking so we can break out of this, again, horrible materialism that's been going on since the late 19th century.
Do you think the transhumanism is a bad thing? Like that's part of it? I do in a way. A lot of times it scares me sometimes what they're trying to do.
No doubt. It's part of eugenics. It's part of the control of the human consciousness, and it's part of becoming the sin of trying to become a god, to become like Jehovah or Yaldabaoth or Saturn, because a god of the material realms, a creator god of the sublunar world, and that, I mean, obviously the Gnostics would be horrified at this stuff, but I think just even on a more general metaphysical occult stance, it's a bad thing. It's
twisted.
Man playing God, man playing God in the wrong way. I mean, we talk about human imagination and creating beautiful things for others. This is the opposite. This is splitting the atom to create violence, and this is to create immortality so that a few and select can dominate the cattle. At the end of the day, that's what's going to happen.
Yeah, it's a little twisted. I mean, why are scientists trying to put human genetics in pig brains? Why are they trying to make pigs smarter? And then are they trying to give them consciousness to go to the slaughter? I don't get it. Like, why are they? Where's the oversight?
Turn us into pigs. Yeah, they're going to turn us into pigs again. I mean, obviously, for the elite, and again, we talk about Grant Morrison and the Invisibles. It's always the elite are always looking for eugenics. They're looking for immortality. They're looking to experiment on us in any shape, way, or form, and they're looking to mine us for important data so they can use our gnosis for their own benefit. So I think this is nothing new, and they can clothe it with the good side of Silicon Valley or whatever BS they want to call it. But it's the same old game that it's been used since the pharaohs of Egypt and the Roman emperors, and it's the same crap. It's the high priest and the king with the demiurge right behind them.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, there's some kind of weird mad scientist thing going on right now that it's pretty freaky. Yeah, there's no doubt about it.
Oh yeah.
The divine feminine is something that in Gnosticism you see brought up quite a bit. And then when you bring that up, a lot of people automatically draw back real quick because they think, oh no, here comes the feminists. And it's not that at all, right? I know, feminazis, I'm related to a couple of them, but the divine feminine is something that is actually forgotten and it needs to be brought back. And I think people think, oh, well, you're just trying to copy that Tom Hanks movie where they were, talking about the Prairie Asylum. That's all BS. But no, when you look into this, the divine feminine is a real thing. Why do you think that's been buried? Why do you think that has been hidden so much?
Well, I think it's a matter of balance. I think if you look, for example, at the Gnostic systems, but it's everywhere else, the best type of human being, as Jung said, is a being that's individuated. And of course, Jung was greatly influenced by the Gnostics. In fact, he wrote about this. For a complete human being, you must have wisdom, Sophia, and logos, which is reason or divine reason. So you would have Jesus and Sophia. And one of the best ways to keep us in slavery or to keep us where we need to be, us little cattle, is to remove the wisdom, the divine feminine part of us, the idea of intuition and instinct and all that, which is just as important as cold, hard logic. I mean, they need to work together. So by removing Sophia, the divine feminine, then we are always in a state of unbalance, and we're also not embedded or integrated into nature, which is something that the divine feminine does well because of intuition and other aspects. So I don't think it's about being a feminist. I think it's, again, as I keep saying, it's about individuation. It's about wholeness. It's about, I talk about Sophia falling out of the mind of God, is that we must have all the capacities of the mind to really reach our potential as these mortal gods that we are meant to be. And this potential has to have all the capacities of the mind working: intuition, wisdom, imagination, reason, logic, kindness, all this other stuff. So I think that's what it is, and it's not some sort of, again, a modern feminist agenda, which I think is just part of the elite trying to do what they do best, which is destroy us, or not destroy us, but keep us down, keep us ignorant. They're just doing what the archons are doing. Simple as that.
Yeah, it's almost like nature. When you say destroy us and suffering and stuff, I keep thinking, well, nature is a beautiful thing. I go outside and I look at the stars. I'm in love with the sky at night. I look at that. I look at nature and see how beautiful it is. And I have those thoughts like the Hermeticists do, like, oh, there's bad stuff that happens, but look how beautiful this place is, right? But we forget about the suffering. So it's really something inside of us that's destroying everything. That is, I think, is being controlled in a type of way. I know Manly P. Hall and other people wrote that there's these hidden masters in these inner realms that manipulate reality as we know it today. And I could never figure out if they were talking as if it was a good thing or a bad thing, but there's definitely something inside there, pushing this along. In other words, what I'm saying is sometimes I may have a thought that may not be my own, and it's coming from somewhere else. Do you agree with that? Like they can get into your mind through the inner realms?
Oh, yeah. Oh, of course. I would say so. Just like I talk about the collective unconscious, how it's a font of all, not just the archetypes, but all the knowledge and wisdom of our ancestors and all that. But of course, the best way to fight that is, again, not just with distractions, material things, but actually implant thoughts into it. I think the Gnostics of ancient times used to call it the counterfeit spirit, which is basically our false self that would make all. It was sort of a virus in our head that would make us make us do the wrong decisions over and over again. I know I do still have the dumbest thoughts, the wrong thoughts that would just make us, again, more unconscious, less connected to others and more selfish and so forth. So it makes perfect sense. I mean, in many ways, I think maybe orthodoxy has it right about, Satan and little devils whispering in our ears, because it certainly feels that way sometimes, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. And the systems too, like I know Jordan Maxwell's talked about the stuff quite a lot about the etymology of things, even the fact that judges wear black, the court systems and all of that relate to this metaphysical, diabolical control system. Do you buy into that at all, based on our English language, the symbols, colors, all that stuff that he talks about?
Yeah, I would say so. I think he's spot on. I mean, everything has to be by design, or sometimes by unconscious bad design. So I would say so too. I mean, language is sort of couched in certain ways that we don't understand why we use certain words, and when you think about it, it makes no sense. I mean, here's an example, and I'm sure Jordan and others can give a billion examples from our law and our schools and all that. But that ritual where the groom brings the bride through the threshold, and everybody knows it, right? And it's a beautiful thing, and the bridezillas love it, and all that good stuff. But I learned even a month ago that rule came from when Rome was founded. Romulus, it's called the rape of the Sabine women. When the Romans got freed from, I think, the Etruscans, there were just a bunch of dudes, just a few hundred dudes who'd been freed in Rome, and it wasn't much of a city. So they went around, they held some fake festival, and they went, and there was this tribe called the Sabines, and they went and they stole all the women and ran them into their houses and raped them. So,
oh my God.
That's it. And they got him pregnant, and that's basically how Rome was founded. You wonder why the Romans were like they were. But you think, okay, so this ritual we've been passing for hundreds and thousands of years, and I think unconsciously what it's doing to marriages and people and stuff like that. So, I mean, it's like the dad giving away the bride. I tell my wife, is like, why does the bride need the dad's permission? Oh, yeah, because she used to be just property. Well, she doesn't have to be property anymore. So
and the contract too.
Right.
And I always knew there was something inherently evil about the way we do marriage nowadays, man. It just feels like you're signing your life away, and there's something like, to me, and this is just a quick note, real love, you should always have choice in there, right? It's like you're bound to this and that, and it's almost like death to you if you ever make a different choice. And now this is your property, sign here on the paper. And then the divorce rate is what, over 60% or something now. I don't know. It kind of adds up, but
it's subtle how they get us. It's so subtle. That's why you always have to be on your toes, like the Gnostics, where you can't let off the pedal or else they'll get you.
2 more questions here. The thing with when it comes to bad things that happen, like bombings, shootings, in the conspiracy realm, they're putting these dates. They're like, look at the dates, look at the planetary alignments, look at what's going on when these types of things happen. There's other conspiracies that say they're psyops or whatever, but I can't help but notice that in magic, everything comes through or I guess you could say synchronistically, right? When you manifest something, so to speak. I wonder sometimes, Miguel, and I don't want to get too paranoid about things, but I wonder sometimes, is there another force that is doing these types of things, or is it just human nature?
Good question. Well, they say being paranoid just means you've been paying attention all this time, so nothing wrong with being too paranoid. That's a good question. Are you talking, like, what numbers are you talking about?
Well, let's say, for instance, this bombing that just happened in Sri Lanka, right? The Notre Dame thing. Most people think the most conspiracy are like, well, this happened. These were black magicians or some dark force, or it was a psyop. And when I hear that stuff, I usually go, wow, okay, let's really look and see if this was just an accident or if this was just a hateful person. But yet I can't help but see that a friend of mine, Ryan Gable, who was showing me dates of all of these atrocities, shootings, bombings, and things that happen at certain times of the year, certain rituals that go way back, pagan stuff. And I wonder if there's just anything to it. And if there's not, then there's not. But I don't want to say that there is if there's not, because it creates a hysteria. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, there seems to be a cadence or rhythm of the universe that gives us these signs. I mean, if some have said in the synchromistic circles, it could be the collective unconscious that is sending us signs and giving us warnings. I certainly could see that. For example, the famous example in The Matrix, when Neo shows his expired passport, it's 9/11/2001. What are the possibilities? Is it the universe warning us? Is it somebody in the set giving us a warning? Is it a complete accident? Is it sort of a mockery, like predictive programming, where they're not only mocking us, but they're getting us subconsciously ready to accept this event? So it could be a lot of these things. I wish I had more of the answers, but I usually take it on a case-by-case basis. I think the important with these things, that these things are great and they can help. They can even maybe predict the future or understand why things are going. But at the end of the day, I always like to say, what does that say about me? Because sometimes it's good to align these things to what's going on in your life. What are the symbols in your dreams? What are you feeling at the time of these things? Align your inner world to this outer world, and then try to understand the flow of how things are going. So I think that's just as important. People get too obsessed with it, and they don't forget about their own growth and their understanding and their awakening. I don't think at the end of the day we're going to, again, trap these archons. They're just faster and infinitely more powerful than us. But at the end of the day, the question remains, are you free, and what's going to make you free? I think that's the ultimate Gnostic thrust. They, more than any other group, they wanted freedom from this world to help this world. So that's what really is work. I mean, unfortunately, I know people, they go down these conspiracy rabbit holes and they end up being consumed, and they end up creating another prison than the other prison that when they were growing up in some fundamentalist religion. And that's probably sadder. I mean, it's like the Gnostics would say, part of the Stoic and Buddhist vibe. You got to stay disattached, and you got to work on your freedom.
Exactly. I've said that before in a kind of a different way that's related. Like, we need to be careful about the bad things that we believe and focus on. If we all really are creator gods and we all focus on these things, could we possibly be making it worse? You know?
Yeah, because now everybody it's almost like the great psyop is everybody blames everything on the CIA. And I think that it is a great psyop because now all these other evil government and social political entities are getting off the hook. My wife is always like, CIA. I said, well, what about the military generals and the corrupt police department? No, CIA. I'm like, oh my God. And friends are doing that too. I'm like, man, those archons are fast. That's probably what the CIA wants, to be the scapegoat.
I want to try to paint a scenario and then get this answer. And this is a lot of these questions I'm asking you. I'm just asking on your opinion, on these things. The end game for an ultimate free soul, if we make it past the archons, if we make it past the system, the matrix, do we go back to the garden? Do we travel through the stars? What do we really become? What do you think?
I guess the end game is, for us, is to become individuated and whole, and then it's to take the trek home. And I guess, we can put different goals to it. Back in the Garden was that song by Woodstock, by Joni Mitchell. We're trapped in the devil's bargain. We've got to get back to the garden. It would be, the oneness with the all. And obviously that is a state of mind that I have tasted, you've probably tasted too, that ultimate sublime peace and oneness and liberation. So that would be the ultimate goal. Now, how it's our minds decide to clothe it, that's depends on each individual, but imagine a great afterlife or a great place and then hold on to that. It's going to be 1 billion times better than that, but there's nothing wrong with creating these wonderful images. Again, the mind is one of the greatest tools in the universe. It can help us break open from the black iron prison. So use it well to imagine better worlds. Like I say in my show, let's create better than the creator gods and their butt slaves in the establishment. We can imagine better, even though as hard as it is, but it is possible. It's our innate, it's our birthright. And at the end of the day, it's going to help somebody not go hungry and hopefully help some animal not get killed on the road if we do it right.
Are you going to continue your writing as we move on?
God, if I could just find time. Saturn is cruel, right? There's never enough time in the day between kids, family, day job, the show. It's sometimes I barely have time to and I wonder, maybe the archons got me exactly where they want me because I don't have time to contemplate. It's nice. I take the dogs out on the trails for a 20-minute walk, and I wonder, well, is that enough? But I think, Joe, the key is are we helping others? Is your show helping others wake up? I would say it is. Is my show doing it? Am I doing all I can to help others out? Because at the end of the day, I always love that quote from as the Gospel of Matthew, when Jesus says, what you do for me, you do for the least of my brothers. If I'm helping the little guy, then I know things are going to work out pretty well for me at the end.
You wrote Voices of Gnosticism, other Voices of Gnosticism. Some of your nonfiction work is Stargazer, a heretic, and The Executioner's Daughter. I want to say that I can't wait to get into this reading. I've always when the first time I looked at your books, I was like, oh, this stuff has got to be cool, right? And just like you say, I haven't had the time. Like, I'm reading one book a month now because of my time. And right now I'm reading American Cosmic, she's been on your show. Yeah,
Diane is awesome. Yeah, great book.
But I am going to get into your reading, and I hope one day that when I come up with some more questions, maybe you could come back on the program and share it with us.
Oh, I'd be delighted. Again, we've only scratched the surface. We didn't get into Mary Magdalene, some of the rituals. There's a lot more, but I do hope your audience gets a good grasp on what Gnosticism is, and I really hope they stay away from it.
Well, thank you for coming up on the show, Miguel. TheGodAboveGod.com is the website. It's been a real pleasure. Thank you for coming on Lighting the Void.
Enjoyed it. Thanks for having me.
Lighting the Void Radio.
Do you want to know the truth? Are UFOs real? Are aliens visiting Earth? Are governments around the world hiding the biggest secret in history? We're UFO Seekers, official partner of The Fringe FM, and we're on a hunt for the truth. Join us as we investigate locations like Area 51 by subscribing on YouTube at youtube.com/UFO Seekers.
Hey, is that a new music app?
Yeah, check it out. Surfer Music Discovery. It links to thousands of online stations, but the twist is you see the song names and artists that are now playing live.
That's different. No guessing. Looks like a waterfall of music.
So many formats. Rock, oldies, country, R&B, jazz, and a whole lot more.
How's that spelled?
Surfer. S-U-R-F-R.
Is it expensive?
It's free. No need to sign up or sign in.
Get the Surfer Music app free from Google Play or the App Store.
If you are interested in occult subjects, psychic abilities, symbols, tarot, witchcraft, magic, or anything similarly related, my book Occult Arcana will provide you with a truly objective overview of these topics and more. Written in anything but modern language, Occult Arcana was compiled to help researchers balance their quest for a better understanding of the meanings of and in such studies. Occult Arcana is available in softcover and digital form from www.thesecretteachings.info. All copies can also be autographed if requested. That's Occult Arcana from www.thesecretteachings.info.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7 with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
Paranormal News, I'm Dave Bourne. The paranormal world is mourning the loss of Lorraine Warren. She and her late husband, Ed, investigated hauntings all around the world for decades and spoke on everything from demons to the supernatural and psychic phenomena. Their work was the inspiration for classic movies, The Conjuring.
What are you guys? Well, we've been called ghost hunters, paranormal researchers.
But we prefer to be known simply as Ed and Lorraine Warren.
Annabelle.
Go!
Your dogs.
And the Amityville Horror.
God's peace in this house. Get out. Get out.
One family were all murdered. Another family moved in and fled. So Channel 5 News said, the viewers have a right to know what happened. That's why we went to the house.
While attending a private Catholic school in Connecticut, Lorraine spoke of seeing an aura around a nun, which didn't go over that well, especially back then. In her later years, she told her son-in-law that she received signs from Ed several times after his passing. Lorraine Warren was 92. If you've ever wanted to travel through a black hole, don't let this stop you. Physicists at Harvard and Stanford universities in the U.S. think it's possible that we could survive being sucked into a black hole and could potentially be rescued if need be. Daniel Jeffries said the method involves two black holes that are entangled to connect across space and time. He and colleagues Ping Gao and Aaron Wall argue that two perfectly entangled black holes would act as a wormhole between 2 points in space. Oh yeah, it's incredibly dangerous, so you shouldn't risk it. As if you needed the disclaimer. But if you ever fall into a black hole, it really would be nice to have a way out, even if it took a really long time. Connect with the news at paranormalradio.com. I'm Dave Bourne, in for John Jeter, Paranormal News.
Hi, this is Aaron Hunter, host of Real Paranormal Activity, the podcast where we tell real paranormal experiences of people from around the world. And we also conduct interviews with authors, investigators, psychics, and mediums. Real people, real stories, real fear. Thursdays at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern on The Fringe FM. See you then.
All right, welcome back to Lighting the Void. That was Miguel Connor from Aeon Byte Gnostic Radio as well. The website is thegodabovegod.com. You guys need to go check that out. And he gave me permission to play one of his monologues. And this is why I kind of fell in love with the show. He has great guests on too, but before each show that he does these really cool monologues. And if you want to call into the show or text in, it's 501-777-5631. We'll go ahead and open that up. I'm sure some of you guys, I've been reading a lot of your comments in the chat rooms. So everybody's pretty much enticed about this conversation, I can tell right now, because it's got the ultimate questions here, right? So what we're going to do is I'm going to play just a little snippet. Now, this was something from his show back in July, and it's one of his opening monologues. So here we go.
Sometimes the devil allows people to live a life free of trouble because he doesn't want them turning to God. Their sin is like a jail cell, except it's all nice and comfy and there doesn't seem to be any need to leave. The door's wide open. Till one day, time runs out. The cell door slams shut. And suddenly, it's too late.
What does salvation mean to Gnostics? In many ways, the Gnostic concept of salvation is close to the concept of liberation found in the Hindu and Buddhist traditions. Gnostics look to salvation not from sin, original or other, but from the ignorance of which sin is the consequence. Those who know the divine through gnosis shed all sin, while those without gnosis cannot help but persist in transgressions. Ignorance, which means ignorance of spiritual realities, is dispelled by gnosis. The decisive revelation of gnosis was brought by the messengers of light, especially by Jesus, who is recognized as the messenger of this age.
There's no pleasing some people. That's just what Jesus said, sir!
The Gnostic concept of salvation is subtle. Students of spirituality, whose grasp of Gnostic ideas is superficial, often misunderstand salvation by gnosis as a totally unmediated individual experience, a sort of spiritual do-it-yourself project. This projection onto the Gnostic tradition is largely a product of our secular, religiously alienated age and society. Were salvation possible without any outside aid, the vast majority of the human race would have been liberated long ago. Neither is salvific gnosis the result of mere reading, intellectual speculation, and discourse. To be liberated from the predicament of spiritual ignorance, we require help alongside our own efforts.
What is he doing?
He's beginning to believe.
That was a quote from Stephen Heller from his book, Gnosticism. And thanks for providing, Matthew G. That's why you are here, and that's why you need help. I need help. And help you will get with the insights from the remarkable but transgressive astral guests at Aeon Byte Gnostic Radio. Broadcast at the virtual Alexandria, that state of mind where East meets West. Ignorance isn't bliss, but torture these days, the mother of all sins, as the Gospel of Philip states. Ignorance is our shackles and our doom and our mental sodomizing in these Gnostic times and a Philip K. Dick world.
Our impulses are being redirected. We are living in an artificially induced state of consciousness that resembles sleep.
Or as the band The sang in The Beaten Generation, when you cast your eyes upon the skylines of this once proud nation, can you sense the fear and the hatred growing in the hearts of its population? And our youth, oh youth, are being seduced by the greedy hands of politics and half-truths. The beaten generation, reared on a diet of prejudice and misinformation. Open your eyes, open your imagination. We're being sedated by the gasoline fumes and hypnotized by the satellites into believing what is good and what is right. You may be worshiping the temples of Mammon or lost in the prisons of religion. But can you still walk back to happiness when you've nowhere left to run? If they send in the special police to deliver us from evil and keep us from peace, then won't the words sit ill upon their tongues when they tell us justice is being done, that freedom lives in the barrel of a warm gun?
Every passing day, we are taking one step closer to a dictatorship. And we don't even know who the real dictators are.
And this tune came out in 1989, and it's been downhill since. But no matter, we're solving all of this and running to our true home and authentic self here at Aeon Byte Gnostic Radio. We're helping each other and gaining help from higher dimensions for that Gnostic salvation. Thanks for being here, and know you are beautiful and the final authority on everything. Thanks for keeping me, Abraxas, company in his meat machine incarnation of Miguel Connor here in the desert of the real. Yes, he who made kittens put snakes in the grass, but we're going to bungle in the jungle, and that's all right by me.
God isn't for you, Lenny. God is for men who have no use for freedom.
To defeat ignorance and wake up to our true destiny, on this July, the year of our demiurge 2018, we will be discussing Gnosticism, God, and the meaning of life. From human free will to the nature of divinity in all its prisms, to everything in between, including the failure of scientism. We are honored not with one astral guest, but two. The first is recovering Mormon and Gnostic exemplar Scott Smith, author of the excellent book, God Reconsidered. We are also joined by Christian Smith, who was an editing force in God Reconsidered and is a rising philosopher. Quite a threesome, or foursome when you include the Moondog Vans. You'll ramp up your Gnostic salvation and continue to bungle in the jungle after this interview, which is more of a dynamic group discussion. For more information on Scott, visit You Got It, GodReconsidered.com.
Scott, you just don't get it, do you? You don't.
Another thing Heller said beyond Gnostic salvation, in many of his cool BC recordings, is that a lack of civility is what is destroying our culture. I would heartily agree with this. The Gnostics, Neoplatonists, and even many Christian and Jews of ancient times were soaked with Stoicism. That meant that leading with or being ruled by emotions meant losing arguments by default and disconnecting from higher planes of learning, and certainly aborting that precious nectar called inner peace. Hence our disastrous culture amplified by social media and your average sewer comment section.
Take a big step back and literally fuck your own face!
What's more, Voltaire famously said that to know who rules us, we simply need to look at those we are not allowed to criticize. Well, everyone criticizes everyone these days, it seems. You can criticize Trump, or Pelosi, or the Pope, or the CIA, or right-wingers, or left-wingers, or sport/pop stars, or schools, or parents, or whatever. Everyone's a loud woke Wookiee. Whom can we not criticize then? It seems we don't criticize ourselves. Few on social media or the internet admit to their shortcomings, character defects, pride, lack of manners, or anything else negative. Therefore, our own egos, untethered from graciousness and self-reflection, perhaps are ruling our society with an iron fist, all unifying into a collective demiurgic ego that plays right into the cosmic ego that is Yaldabaoth.
You cannot play God, then wash your hands of the things that you've created. Sooner or later, the day comes when you can't hide from the things that you've done anymore.
What do you think?
What do you think? How can you not listen to a radio show after hearing that? Right? So that's just a clip of one of his monologues from an old show at Aeon Byte Gnostic Radio. And, I know there was an F word drop in there, but the good thing is the SEC won't sue me. And I just didn't think that the monologue would really do it without having that in there. But that was Miguel Connor and his famous monologue. So each one of his shows, he does live sessions too, but each one of his shows, he does those monologues, and that one actually went on even further. But that's a new term, Moon, woke Wookiee. You heard that before?
Nah, quite a bit. That's a first for me.
That's a first for me too. But he's right, like in the scriptures, you read how God regretted that he made man. Really? So you're just going to wash your hands of the creation, right? You can't really do that. Can't really do that. So
that's when people say about regrets, they don't say it's a mistake. They say it's a regret.
What's the difference?
Well, that's what I say, but they say it's a regret.
Yeah. What's the difference? And
it's a wish.
So I got a question here from the text line. It's from Sir Craig, and he said, "This is a question for Joe." And the question is, thanks to Joe and his endless curiosity for information, I stumbled across the Samael, text, and I've been able to work throughout my many flawed perceptions and masochistic thought patterns. Okay. I got to a point of balance, but I felt I was now missing the fire of life. Hearing about the buildup of our Kundalini fire, it felt like my missing piece was in front of me. However, my fire burns bright even when beaten down daily. Do you have any advice for someone who's looking to walk the razor's edge, especially one who is susceptible to mania, like always, or like ways of living with too much fire? I guess, well, that's a tough question because I don't know what you mean by that. Do you mean, you may have to call in on that one if you're still listening, but do you mean that you're always susceptible to becoming megalomaniac, like megalomania, because you just had some type of awakening that showed you everything and you think that you know stuff that other people don't? That kind of, and I'm glad that you can acknowledge that, because I think that happens in this community quite a bit. A lot of people, they have awakenings or they learn some big truth or something that they think others just don't know, and all of a sudden they become more intellectually superior than everybody else because they know truth that everyone else doesn't. And you can become full of ego, or what they call megalomania, on that. I guess if you want my advice on that is to, I went through that myself too when I went down this truth journey. But megalomania actually comes from judgment, preconceived notions, pre-thoughts, because someone doesn't agree with you or their ideas are different or that they don't understand you, that something that you do that you automatically know and they don't. I would say try to learn how to spend a time with other people that you don't agree with, and people that you totally don't agree with, people that may even anger you with their beliefs. Sit down and pass the time with them. And I think after a good amount of time with each individual, not only will you learn how to relax a little bit and realize that we're all here washed up upon this great shore of unknowing, but that maybe some of those beliefs that these people have, they have their reasons for them. I used to think the same way, it's like, I don't know if that's what you're talking about. Now, if you're talking about like, you already have Kundalini fire in you all the time and you're already like in this out of body state or halfway in and halfway out all the time. And then right now by that question that you're probably not ready to be there all the time. You got to live on this earth too, man. So try to find a way to level out, to ground yourself. Everybody talks about these grounding exercises, and I used to laugh at those things. I thought it was new agey, but really, if you take your bare feet and you go outside and plant them on the ground and do what's called a grounding meditation, there's even rituals for it. I think the Golden Dawn has one called the middle pillar, but there's just ground yourself to the ground. I think that'll help. It's kind of like when you have electricity that doesn't have a ground. But if you've got family and you got a job, man, you can't be in a constant state of Kundalini all the time or whatever. So yeah, you need to seek professional help. And I don't mean like psychological help. I mean, somebody that knows all about this, somebody that's been through it. The one person, don't you start laughing, Moon. I didn't mean a psychologist. The one person that I know that you could reach out to that has actually had this kind of experience that I think still to this day has these types of experiences. Moon's still laughing. Quit it, dude. You're going to get me laughing. That has these type of experiences is Amalia Eon Karis, right?
You whack, man, you whack.
Well, I'm trying to figure out what he's saying,
I got an idea what he's saying. I think what he's saying is that what he's really got going on is that he really wants to reach out and experience life's knowledge firsthand. But the problem that he ends up having is he only wants to go out and get a mouthful of it. Okay.
He wants his cake and eat it too.
He just wants a bit till he gets his fill, and then he drops it. Okay. It's like going out and grabbing a carcass and just chewing on some of it and leaving the rest. He gets his fill of the knowledge just to the point that he's satisfied with it, and then he drops it and he loses interest in it altogether.
Yeah, he said, I got to a point of balance, but I felt I was now missing the fire of life. Hearing about the buildup. Okay.
Yeah. He likes the chase of it, and it's not just in his search for knowledge, but it's also in his appetite in people of the opposite sex.
Ah, is that what that is? Yeah. Yes. Well, there's a show called and you should listen to it, right? It's called Love, Sex, and the Hidden Agenda, and people can. It's not a feminist show. It's a show where they literally talk about these types of things, and I chime in on that show too, where they've had those types of experiences and what they had to do to deal with them and things like that. So don't prejudge it. Get past your first judgments about it and actually listen to it. Okay, I think they're probably calling in.
Yeah, don't tell me I'm wrong.
This is somebody else, I think. Who we got on the phone line? Hello.
I'm on. Okay.
Oh, is this Craig?
No, this is Josh.
Hey, Josh, what's up, brother?
Hey, how y'all doing?
Man,
so it's actually
good.
funny because I was just thinking about
good,
Love,
Josh.
Sex, and the Hidden Agenda, and I completely decided to call now. It's interesting because I was in the chat here, and after listening to Miguel talking, I was thinking a lot about Valis and some similar stuff. But listening to, I don't remember if it was Amalia or Satya, which is really bad on me at this point. But when she was talking about that experience she had when she had that Kundalini awakening, and she could see basically through all the rooms of that apartment building she was in.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So it's interesting because, there's sort of two ways of looking at that. I don't know if all of the listeners are familiar with the specifics of what we're talking about here, but it was interesting because in this Colin Wilson book called The Mind Parasites, there's basically this idea of this kind of psychically attached being that is some kind of like, you're familiar with Lovecraft, like the Cthulhu type thing.
Yeah.
So here's a review. Do you mind if I just read this? It's a
go ahead.
paragraph, but it's kind of... So it's this big ancient mind slug named Abath the Dark, and it was also known as Abath the Unclean. And the only way that these people are able to transcend, right, is to fully activate their consciousness by reading some phenomenological philosopher named Husserl, who is basically Heidegger's the guy that taught Heidegger, right? So it's a really kooky book, right? But there's this idea of you have to transcend, and eventually you realize that you have complete mind manipulation powers through phenomenology of being able to get off this planet. And this planet is what this thing's feeding off of, right? So what has made this planet, this is where I'm going to read the quote here, what has made this planet such a soft touch for Abath? The greatest human limitation is that we are all tied to the present by an arbitrary identity, personal and national. What is identity? The identity of a shark is its teeth, its size, its ability to digest almost anything. An oyster's identity is its protective shell. Identity, then, is the means by which an organism protects and maintains itself in a hostile environment, and all environments that contain such identities are hostile. And what is the identity of Abath the Dark? Its ability to remain hidden and carry on a parasitic existence that is hostile to its host by parasitic necessity. So we're all playing Abath's game, and by setting one's identity against another, Abath maintains himself indefinitely. So one thing I kind of get out of that is that, I think having an identity is great. And like what Moon was saying too, is that, or even the person who was texting in, right, is that, you kind of reach this level, right? And you're like, oh, this is great. I feel cool. But then the world calls again. We want to eat that slice of pizza or, what was it? Mary said to you a couple weeks ago, salt and porn.
Yeah,
right?
That's what everybody wants is their salt and porn. Yeah.
Yeah, we porn sometimes. And, it's like in the Daskalo system, he always comes back to the idea of the prodigal son. So, I think that there is a point of having an identity. I don't really think that identity is bad, but what is our identity, right? We have to kind of find our true personality. And I think that's what our part of our life is. Now, some things Miguel said were really striking, though, is like, what about all these heartless acts? That's the hard part to reconcile, right? So, I mean, I don't really have any answers on that, but it's interesting because at the end of the day, I think that the light is more prominent than the cracks, but there are things that feed in the dark. You know what I mean?
Well, it's like too many people, like I was telling in the chat room, I can't prove I can't prove the existence of archons or parasites in the astral realm. I don't know how science would ever prove that. Maybe one day we'd have to get real down and dirty to prove something like that. But I do know that there are scientists, Eastern gurus, many people have written a lot of books, podcasters, people that I've talked to personally that all talk about this type of experience where they met this type of being in the astral realm that was feeding or sucking off of some type of negative energy in this realm. And most of the descriptions that I get from these people, they all call them different things: serpent king, serpent, draconian, lizards, archons, whatever, right? I don't know, but they all call them different things. But what I do know is that they're there and that people are seeing them, and they're seeing them feed off of us in the astral realm, or in this realm, from that realm. And that, look, until I meet one, I'll let you know. But to me, it's not a coincidence. It can't be a coincidence that all these people that don't know each other are talking about the same types of things on different timelines as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's like they have the Nagas and the Indian thing, and sometimes some people say it's good, some people say it's bad, but it's exactly what you're saying is that, you know, even if there is a scientific thing, scientific disproof for these things, right? It doesn't really matter because, again, the only thing, you know, and I don't want to sound too solipsistic or whatever, that, you know, we're too inside our own minds, but we don't really know anything outside of what we can perceive with our senses, right? So all those experiences, whether it can be proven to somebody else, quote unquote, objectively, it's still valid. Yeah. So, you know what I mean? Yeah. I don't know, like David Icke has some strange ideas, but there is something definitely to be said for the predominance of a lot of these concepts being everywhere.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Don't necessarily, but so I don't know. Anyway, just some thoughts on that, and I definitely think that, you know, it's that's a part of life, though, is, you know, why are we often drawn to the, you know, I like horror movies and stuff, right? Why are we drawn to the macabre? You know what I mean? I'm not a bad guy. I like good things. I want to be good to people, but, you know, there's
but you'll turn on Insidious on Saturday night, right, to watch it.
Exactly, or Hellraiser. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, right.
I couldn't make it through Hereditary again. Just that first time, I didn't be a part of that ritual. So
right. Well, hey, thanks for your call, Josh. I appreciate it.
Good night, Josh.
Josh is a guy. He's in the Fringe.fm chat room and contributes to the conversation quite a bit in there. I have to take this break here because we skipped one with Miguel, so I got to take this one. But we'll be right back, guys. Don't go anywhere. I got a little bit of a rant coming up here with Moon. We'll be right back. More Lighting the Void coming up.
This is Al. I listen to Lighting the Void because it's interactive radio with good content, interesting guests, and a humble host, sharing this journey through the esoteric. Hey, Joe Roop. Thanks for having us along for the ride.
Thank you so much for a delightful evening.
Well, I got a lot of ground to cover.
All right, everyone, this is Justin from the UK. Excuse the chitty. If you're into the Fringe and you want to hear the brass tacks, my old china plate, Joe Roop and his guests on Lighting the Void will open your mince pies. You need to shut your north and south and use your 10-speed gears and listen to them bubble. You could hear a Barry Crocker, no Brussels, but he ain't no holy friar. Anyway, you beat a Barnaby Rudge and take a butcher's.
Poor water quality is a major health issue, and it's only getting worse. Municipalities can't keep up, standards have dropped, and pollutants are increasing. Where does it all end? It ends by keeping the pollutants outside of your home with HydroCare's advanced systems available at Wave Home Solutions. No less than the best purification materials and processes have been developed by HydroCare to provide you with healthy, clean water for drinking, cooking, and showering. HydroCare far surpasses the competition in removing chlorine, odors, iron, lead, chemicals, limescale, and much more. Don't settle for less when it comes to your water. We'll take care of the toughest water problems for you, whether it's from a city or well source. Satisfaction guaranteed. For more information, call 888-997-WAVE. That's 888-997-WAVE. Or go to bestwater123.com. That's bestwater123.com.
Wave Home Solutions for a healthy, comfortable home.
Hey, Fringe FM listeners, did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or no Wi-Fi available, you can still listen to every minute of the Fringe FM by calling 701-719-3971. No smartphone app or internet needed. Saves your data plan and no extra cost if you have unlimited minutes. Call 701-719-3971. That's 701-719-3971. Listen to the Fringe FM on any phone, anytime, anywhere.
Your home has needs. It needs a healthy, dry environment all year round. Start by getting rid of the worst air in the basement and crawl space, where the problems begin and make the whole house sick. Introducing the new Smart Wave Ventilation Unit. It has advanced technologies to continuously reduce moisture, mold, and odors, and expel radon, gases, and pollutants. And now, Wave units include carbon monoxide detection to automatically expel air at a high rate and send you an alert. It also has an app so you can remotely monitor the conditions. Wave is a comprehensive, maintenance-free, affordable solution that will transform your entire home. Protect your home and family with what it needs. Give it a new Smart Wave Ventilation Unit. For more information, call 888-717-WAVE. That's 888-717-WAVE. Or go to dryhealthyhome.com. That's dryhealthyhome.com.
Wave Home Solutions for a healthy, comfortable home.
You're listening to Lighting the Void Radio.
Follow The Fringe FM on Facebook and Twitter at The Fringe FM.
All right, welcome back to Lighting the Void. I'm Joe Roop. Tonight we just got through to discussing Gnosticism, or what is Gnosticism, with Miguel Connor, host of Aeon Byte Gnostic Radio. The website is thegodabovegod.com. And some interesting thoughts, great phone calls. I think once we get down this road, I wanted to talk a little bit about what the void is. It has to do with the name of the show. And a lot of people wonder why I called it that. You know, why did you call it Lighting the Void? Well, that's because Into the Void didn't sound as good. But don't forget too, after this, after the broadcast, well, it sounded good. I just didn't want to copy a song, you know, because you don't want to copy a song because nobody will find it. Like Into the Void was a Black Sabbath song, but the Lighting the Void to me is like getting to that last question. Right? Getting to that final question that nobody can answer. And then once you get there, that's where the real mystery starts, right? I mean, everybody's got their theories. But when we get into this stuff that we try to do, it's not easy to become an effective explorer of consciousness, because you got all these people talking about UFOs, disclosure, conspiracy. And I don't think, we've been talking about this stuff for years, guys, for years. And I don't think we're ever going to get to the answers through this realm. I hate to say it, right? So if we learn to become, and I could be wrong about that, and I'd love to be wrong about that, but if we learn to become effective explorers of consciousness, then we can get the answers we need. And people like Robert Monroe and others, and people that study Gnosticism, and Thomas Campbell, I can go down the list. I don't want to bore you with the list, but there's a big list there. William Buellman. They become effective explorers of consciousness. But it takes time and practice. It's not easy. You got to journal. You got to learn how to relax. You got to learn how to get into that twilight state without falling asleep, but staying awake. Some can do it through meditation. You've got to take time to study some of this stuff to find certain parallels. And if the Gnostics are right, if they're right, then we are all individual God, creator gods living on this planet. That's why we can't relate to anybody. That's why we're always at some type of conflict with each other. That's why I think in a lot of ways we destroy ourselves too, because that's what gods do. They destroy stuff. But what does that imply? I mean, if they're right, if the Gnostics are right, then what does that imply about you? How much influence do you have over your reality? Now, you hear all of these people say, well, just be positive, don't be negative, that kind of stuff. That's just the beginning. If you really are an individual God creator, really think about your situation. Yeah, maybe we're all on a prison planet, but sometimes if you think about your thought, word, and deeds, most of the crap that's there, I believe, is by your own making. Cause and effect of your own making. The mystery schools, good or bad, the rituals it takes, the meditations that it takes, whatever it takes to get you out of this matrix. Even Miguel said it doesn't matter. Once you start seeking this, you'll find your own set of rituals or meditations or whatever it is. But you're going to run into resistance. And I think resistance is kind of where we fail. Because as soon as we run up against that resistance, we want to stop, or things get hard. Life isn't so peaceful anymore. I don't want to study. I don't want to do this stuff. And then you get bad luck. I know for a fact that the more breakthroughs I've had, the more resistance that's come up against me. What about you, Moon? Have you found that, like, as soon as you make like a breakthrough in consciousness or whatever you're studying, something crazy happens to kind of slow you down? It seems like it always happens.
Oh, the harder it gets, definitely.
Yeah.
Every step you make and every advance you make, the harder everything gets. Everything, it's like turning up the volume on a stereo system. Every little notch higher and higher you get, the more and more power it takes till the whole thing, it just explodes.
Kind of like shortwave radio.
Yeah.
So you hear those texts that say like life and abundance.
By the way, everything's going to be CBs.
Oh yeah, you think so?
Yeah. I mean, you'll have a couple short waves, but they're going to be the ones that that'll be targeted and stuff like that. And that, there'll be some broadcasts like that shot across the world. But CBs are going to be the little mobile things people be talking again with, walkie-talkies and stuff like that.
I'm telling you, man, y'all cherish this stuff. Cherish the internet for what it is now, because it's all about to come to a head. I see them working. I mean, the lady that ran the Patriot Act is running Facebook now.
Yeah.
That managed the Patriot Act.
That's what, that's why things are just, you look at things, how screwed up they are and stuff like that. There are certain companies out there and certain people that have cryptology that's so advanced the government supposedly can't decrypt, but that I find that hard to believe. The FBI and stuff like that make believe that they can't get to certain things.
Yeah.
But that's maybe the FBI. But there are government agencies within the government that are so secretive that they would never, allow anybody else to know they have something. And so I don't believe there's any cryptology that anyone has, publicly.
But this disclosure thing that everybody's wanting, you're not going to get it from, I'm telling you. Okay, I hate to say this, but you're not going to get it from To the Stars Academy. You're not going to. I think you're going to find out about what aliens and all this stuff is really going on. Like, you take Tim, for example, right? Like, I bring up Tim a lot because I literally don't know anybody that does the kind of work he does in ufology. I'm sorry, I don't.
Yeah.
I mean, I've talked to people from MUFON and all over, and they go out and they do their investigations, and 90% of the time they got this protocol they do. I mean, this dude's digging. I don't know anybody that's digging as hard as him, and he's only getting so much, right? So we've got to do him a service, I think, by being able to become effective explorers of consciousness, because we all have that ability. And if we all can do that, then we can share our stories and parallels and try to figure this stuff out. I mean,
the more we gather as a community and more we gather as I don't want to say universe, but as a universe, the more we can put together all the pieces in the puzzle. And that's how you're going to gather the story. It's not going to be by one giant person, popping it off. It's going to be everybody putting everything together. Then the pieces will get bigger and bigger and bigger.
You know what's funny, though, talking about archons and serpent beings and stuff? If you look at the mystery schools, it's like since the beginning of time, there was mystery schools that all had to do with serpents, right? The serpent kings, the brothers of the snake, right?
Yeah.
They all knew about, and I'm not just, when I say snake and serpent, that automatically makes you think evil, right? But they all knew about this serpentine line of force. Like, if you look at the Orphic egg or the cosmic egg, you see the serpent around the egg, which is something that, when we go on Ryan's show here in a little bit, we're going to really get into that if you're into symbology and stuff. But they've been studying this stuff since the beginning of time, man.
Yeah, and we got one of the ancient burial mounts right here in Ohio, the Serpent Mount.
Yep.
And
have you been there? Have you been to the Serpent Mount?
Yeah, it's a neat place, and it's a big place, and you've got the huge serpent going all the way up, and then this mouth is open, and then there's an egg right there, like it's getting ready to swallow the egg, and
these are all just my theories, though, right? I'm not preaching here.
And birds circle the place constantly.
Yeah, I'm sure they do.
It's one of those magnetical places where everything just screwed up. And,
I've been to one like the Crystal Mine out there. That's kind of like that too. It's got some type of weird geomagnetic stuff going on. But I mean, when you look into when things like alchemy and your imaginative power, I think the reason why we don't have some of the experiences that we want is because of our doubt. All I know is like magic happens in synchronicity. But if you take the C5 experience, Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind, why is it happening to certain people? They got other authors that, they have books out on this stuff. Others can do it. Others can't do it. And I think, well, I got this book. I'm trying this stuff. I'm not having these experiences these people are having. And I got to think it's because if I am and this is just a theory, but if I am a creator God being in smaller form, then my own imaginative power and my choices pretty much create my reality. So that doubt that I have in the back of my mind isn't just doubt somewhere in my brain, in my, fleshy little brain. It's actually a force that I'm putting out in my own reality that might keep me from experiencing certain things. That's probably why this whole system is designed to keep your imagination down.
Well, I've always had, and this is going to get me in trouble with a lot of people because they're going to be pissed off, but I've always felt that the reason why a lot of people are abducted is because they are weak psychically and they cannot deal with them, or on a mental level deal with the aliens.
Why do you say that?
And the aliens are targeting them.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
You see? And those that have the confidence and have the abilities to mentally deal with them, they don't abduct them, and they don't, go after them, because they're the mind tricks and all and everything else that they use is not going to work on them. So they're not going to be a subject for them. They're either going to have to use them for, food or whatever like that, or they're going to come back and, tell.
But I mean, all these stories, like in scripture, are they just stories? Think about it. Like right now, we currently worship, whether you like it or not, this whole society, especially the Western society, we worship science. The money flows to the tech and science and to transhumanism. And I was talking to somebody in the chat room about pink lizards. Well, how did that happen? Well, that's because scientists were experimenting with genetics and cloning, and they accidentally turned the lizard pink. Why are they trying to clone us? Why are they trying to genetically influence animals in the brain? It's dangerous, right?
Well, it could be dangerous. It could be so helpful. Who knows?
I don't think it's helpful.
Science is neither one way or the other. It's how you interpret it. That's my opinion. But when you're talking about these books and about the things that come up in the scriptures,
until you talk to a
over
scientist
and over again,
and they'll argue to the teeth that their way is the right way.
Well, each scientist, each person,
it's a religion.
That. It's their ego and stuff like that. And there is a religion. There is a religion to mainstream science. Yes, there is. But individual inventors have their own innocence.
They're mad scientists.
But people that are out there working, but the ones that are working out there in these labs that are trying to do one thing and it's angled only for one direction, can definitely have a that's
a positive experience.
They could have a positive or a negative thing going for them.
Tell Tesla that, right?
Yeah,
it goes where the money flows, right? And it goes where that stuff is. But real quick, I wanted to talk about something because we only got a few minutes left here. I think I just want you guys to think about this. We may not do shows on this anymore because I don't know. We've touched the subject so much of Lucifer and Christ But if you look at it mythologically, right, Lucifer is a fallen star, something that fell from heaven into a fallen state. If you look at it in the scriptures, there's only one scripture that talks about Lucifer. Oh, how art thou fallen from heaven, right? And then Christ is risen. Could that just be, could it be, I'm only saying this as a theory, and I'm not saying I believe it, but could it be a story that's talking about you, about how you fell from a heavenly state, and about how you need to come back to the certain type of consciousness and rise again? All of the mystery schools show that. Kabbalah shows that. Christ went against the Old Testament, what the Gnostics call the demiurge. Those scriptures show him going against pretty much everything the Old Testament taught. Just about everything. He taught people new rituals of baptism. Baptism goes back into Egypt and Samaria. I've got clips of I was going to play it tonight, but I didn't want to make people mad, where I feel like I'll play it later though, maybe in a different show, where I feel like demons are actually in our churches, man, like inside of religion. And you get these stadiums of people, crowds. Think about that. If you got crowds and stadiums of people that come to a gathering to validate their beliefs, would a whole bunch of gods really do that? Or a whole bunch of sheep? So what I'm saying is the void is the last question you get to, and we've got a lot of questions. The example tonight would be the serpent being, right? There's a lot of people that have seen these things, that have experienced these things, energy vampires in the astral realm. Lots of people. So there's the void there. What is that? Now, people call them archons. That's a theory. Other people call them draconians and lizards and whatever. Those are all theories. But that's where the void is. So if we can all get to that point, we can, figure that out, shed a little bit of light on it. And we're going to talk about Easter and the pink moon. Speaking of moon, thanks for coming on and letting me rant and let me hear your rants for the last few minutes of the program, brother. I appreciate it.
Oh, I'm always glad to be here, man. And if I can say one thing is that last night I went out. Okay, I'm gonna do it really quick. Last night I went out and looked up at the sky. Venus was off to my right. There was another star. There was a star to the left of that. I was looking out to the southeast. And when I looked up there and I saw the emptiness of the sky, there was a little, there was a good bit of light from the city and stuff. But all of a sudden I could see an entire belt of stars up in the sky that I couldn't see at first. And I shouldn't have been able to see it through the the light and stuff that was there. And it was just incredible. I hadn't seen it before, and it was just incredible.
Right on.
So
I do that too.
Anyways,
go out and check out the night sky when you get a chance. We do got to get out of here though, like right now. So don't forget also that this show was produced by the Fringe FM and cannot be syndicated without written permission. And music was by Chronox, Guitar Man by Bundy. Other music was by Space Station and Kevin MacLeod. We'll see you guys tomorrow night. The Secret Teachings with Ryan Gable is coming up next, live right here on the Fringe FM. We'll see you guys tomorrow night. Thanks for hanging with us. Good night.
Discretion is advised. We told you weeknights on the Fringe FM are now even better. And we mean it.
Do it live!
Where else can you hear the best shows and the best talent? Kick off your evening with our newest host, Alex Exum, live at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 Eastern. Hang out with me, Joe Roop, on Lighting the Void at 9 Pacific, midnight Eastern. Ryan Gable expands your mind on the Secret Teachings at midnight Pacific, 3 a.m. Eastern. We're bringing the heat every single night. Fire it up, the Fringe FM.
Yahoy there! This is Gigi from Shift Happens. And holy shit, you're listening to KTLK, The Fringe FM. Hey, don't you dare turn that stuff.